Hey, we're live, and I don't have a crazy intro for this one. So today on Collect All Monsters, we are taking a look at kaiju through the toy photography lens, and we're going to do a lot of really cool... Oh, no, I hear an echo now. Well, let's just do the intro and get the music going and come back with the show. And welcome to Collect All Monsters episode 3. This is our third episode. We're going to talk all about kaiju toy photography today. First up, I'd like to say hello to everybody in the chat room. We have a lot of people in there right about now. I see over 9,000. Kaiju-tastic Media. Alyssa is in there. Tim Outen's in there. Kaiju Battle, Michael Farah. I see... John Parkinson as well. Everybody's going to get the metal hands when I do this, I guess. And we are also kind of maybe experiencing some small technical difficulties, so hopefully that will not become an issue as we keep going. Also, hey, what's up, Phil, the Kaiju King? So let's go ahead and say hello to Greg Betters and Giuseppe and Mike Keller, since I see them right there. But I'm going to turn my attention to my co-hosts right now. Joining me for episode 3 are some of the people I actually do consider kaiju toy photographers, starting off with my buddy, David. How's it going, man?
It's going pretty good. How are you doing, my friends? It's great.
I can't complain.
It's great to be here, and I want to thank everybody for tuning in again, and we hope we can give you guys a little bit of distraction in this kind of surreal time that we're going through right now. So just sit back, get ready to have some fun, and talk about some toy photography. How are you doing, John?
I'm doing great, David. It's good to be with you and Kyle and Leslie and with everyone else together. So we're looking forward to discussing kaiju toy photography. This will be fun. This is something I've been wanting to do for a little while, and so this is the perfect forum. Leslie, how have you been? How are you doing?
I've been great. I've been so fabulous. I've been awesome. I once again, I know it's been a trying time, ladies and gentlemen, but you know what? We're here to put some smiles on your faces, be a distraction, as my great friend David said earlier. Of course, us winners, we got to sit together. So yeah, we're going to have a fun time on this show. Thank y'all so much for being a part of this discussion. I've said many times before during the prep of this show, or at least this episode in particular, I'm more so of a fan because I have nowhere near a kaiju toy photography experience like my great friends David Dopko and John Ruffin and Kyle, and especially Christine. I'm like the weakest link. I have no problem saying that. You know what I mean? But I hope to learn something. I know I will learn something, and hopefully y'all will learn something great too from these masters in toy photography. So that's how I'm doing right now.
That's awesome. So yeah, it is actually really good to be able to, hang out online. Just the other day, Jeff from the Kaiju Cast, for anybody who's familiar with my co-host Jeff, he actually sent a message out to pretty much all the Kaiju Cast co-hosts and was like, hey, anybody want to have a virtual happy hour? And so we set it up. And so I'm just going to continue the tradition that we started on Thursday, and I'm going to have myself a drink while I hang out with my very good friends here. I thought I would also say that we are down a member. Unfortunately, Christine cannot be with us, and it's not because of the third world country that she lives in, where she doesn't have high-speed internet access. Man, that joke just, it probably is already old and I just don't know it. Okay, so.
It almost killed me.
Anyway, unfortunately, Christine cannot be with us today because of quarantine lockdown stuff where she's from. And everybody, of course, we want to be safe. And so what's going to happen is Christine does have segments that she's producing for this episode. So we're just going to include those in the channel as we go along. Another thing I thought we should probably just do at the beginning of every episode is ask if anybody's done anything recently that we can talk about, or if anybody has picked up anything, new toys, new collectibles. What you got, David?
Well, thanks for asking. Before this madness started, I was able to bang out 2 of the Get to Know Your Fellow Collectors mini segments. And we posted one, I think, about a week ago. It was for the one and only Andy Peters, which was an extremely interesting and entertaining segment. And if you haven't caught that, please check it out. I think you'll really enjoy it. And coming soon, probably next week or the week after, is our good buddy John Bumpus from Screonk.com, who was visiting Seattle about a week and a half ago. So I was able to get him into my toy room and ask him a few questions to sort of introduce him to you guys. So yeah, that's kind of what I've been up to. And as far as anything new, I got this guy, a squishy, soft, final form Smog Monster. Yes.
Nice. Very good.
Yes. I don't know why I waited or hesitated so long to get this guy. It's just super beautiful. And the squishy, soft material really lends itself to being a lot like it was in the film. So very happy to have this. And that's pretty much it with me. How about you, John Ruffin? Anything new and exciting going on in your neck of the woods?
Getting odds and ends week to week. I don't know if I shared this item I picked up at a convention here in the Philadelphia area, maybe over a month ago now, the ZoloCon. I don't know if maybe I did share this, but it's worth sharing again. I found this really amazing original artwork by Satsuma-san. I may have shared this last time, but it's worth sharing again. It's really, really, really amazing. It's not older than, it's at least 1995. As early as 1995, this could have been created. Front, back.
That's awesome.
And inside, and came with an autograph Desu Koji. Really, really original, I think it's just watercolor, but beautifully done. Proud to have it. It was a great find. Other than that, I did translate a new short children's book, Shogakukan book, that's up on my website if anyone's interested in reading. I've been trying to build up a collection of Japanese Godzilla books that could be, translated for those who are interested. That's been the bulk of what I've been up to. Leslie, what's been happening for you?
Obviously, like I said, I try to associate myself with winners. And so, yeah, as you can see, I got him roaring in his opera voice pose. I got the new 2.0 version of Kong, or King Kong, from Skull Island, courtesy of X+/Star Ace. As you can see, he looks so beautiful, and he's massive. He really is a massive figure. I thought I had like a tall figure that I can probably put with him. Let's just say he actually is like the same height as the 30 centimeter Titanosaurus. The only thing Titanosaurus has on him is like that little yellow feather or
the antenna.
Whatever it is. Yeah, the antenna or the
appendage.
The fish thing on top of his head. He has that, but basically Kong is like he kind of towers over his head just a little bit. He is a big 30 centimeter. He's really bigger than the original Kong that came out a couple years ago. The base is awesome. I got the deluxe version, with the guillotine propeller chain, blah blah blah. So so yeah, I got this guy. He's awesome, man. He'll be upcoming for review really, really, really soon. I hope y'all enjoyed that. A couple more things I want to address. I did get my hands on like 2 or 3 weeks ago. In my opinion, the beat this year from X Plus, the Yuji Sakai 1984 Godzilla, the Rick version. I got a review up on my channel. It's been up for the past 2 or 3 weeks. So please go to Leather Chambers Kaiju Reviews and check out this review. In my opinion, spoiler alert, this says top the 91, Sakai 91. You know what I'm saying? And check out the review to find out more about why that is. And number 3, come to my channel, Leather Chambers Kaiju Reviews, here on YouTube. Come next week around the same bat time, same bat channel, where myself and a few other G YouTubers, Brutezilla, Gojira851, Phil the Kaiju King, and William Fett from the Godzilla Files, and we're having a live stream discussion / collectible discussion devoted to the Monsterverse. We're talking about all 3 Monsterverse films. Godzilla 2014, Kong Skull Island, and of course Godzilla King of the Monsters. And we're talking about our favorite collectibles from those films, and that should make for hopefully a great, wonderful, and fun show. Come next week, same bat time, same bat channel, March 28th. So we hope to see you there. And that's pretty much what all I've got going on. Once again, he's awesome. I love this guy. Oh my gosh, I probably won't have another box day for at least until this crisis is over, unfortunately. But this is a great note for me to stop on, this guy right here. So that's pretty much it, what's going on with me. How about you, Kyle?
Very cool.
Right on, man. Well, I actually, I've been working a ton on a whole bunch of stuff, which is why I'm not as prepared for this episode as I should be. But one of the things I just sort of wrapped up and sort of putting the finishing touches on is the Gamera 2 commentary that I'm recording for Arrow Video, which I'm pretty stoked about. Really, really stoked about, to be perfectly honest. And it's only me on the commentary, so there's a ton of information that I get to share. I'm really looking forward to literally saying that, yes, that's all done and been sent off.
Awesome.
I also recorded, since we've seen each other, I've recorded an interview with someone who's going to be in this episode. So that's going to be part of my segment. I won't even talk about it right now, save it for the big reveal later. And then in terms of things that have come my way, I just recently bought this little guy, this little Pigman, because it is your travel buddy, which was funny because I was looking for a small Pigman, right? Because I've got all these X Plus figures up here. And I was like, well, hang on a second. If I buy the X Plus Pigman figure, he's going to be very out of scale, and I cannot have that. So I decided that a small Pigman figure would look great up there, like, because I've got Gamora and Magular. They'll be towering over him. So now I've got a little Pigman in my collection, because most of the other things I have are actually Garamon.
Aha. Well, we'll certainly be seeing some photos that I took of him in Japan coming up in my segment. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And I want to again say how proud I am of you for doing that commentary for Gamera 2. That's a big deal. That's a really big deal, guys. And I know Kyle's been wanting to do something like this for a long time. And I couldn't think of a better person suited to do it. So congratulations on that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Wait to get it. And Leslie, one question I have for you. I'm wondering why you didn't invite me to be part of that legendary discussion. I wonder why. Very curious. Well, let's just leave it at that. Anyway,
I'm sensing somebody's like super offended.
I am so not offended. It's so not.
He's being sarcastic. I mean, because I know how David feels when it comes to the legendary Godzilla. That's why he's going for Kong. That's why he's going for Kong, quite frankly.
I do like Kong, and I am going for Kong. So yes to you.
I mean, I was going to invite you, David, but I didn't want to run your blood pressure up, so that's why I didn't want to invite you. But aside from that, that's all fine and dandy, ladies and gentlemen. You don't have to like the Monsterverse. You know what I'm saying? You can still not like the Monsterverse and still be a Godzilla fan. You know what I mean?
That's right.
So that's all. That's all well and good.
Just playing with you, just playing around.
Oh yeah, I know. So, but yeah, it's it's funny. Oh man.
Yes. Anyway, getting this show sort of back on some kind of tangible rails here. Thank you to everybody in the chat room for actually congratulating me on the commentary thing. I am I really am super stoked about it, and I'm super honored to be a part of that set. Now, I think it's probably time for us to turn it over to our main attraction, and that is where I said earlier we were turning the view through the viewfinder or something like that. I didn't have a good anecdote because I'm not actually a kaiju toy photographer, but we wanted to talk about kaiju toy photography because I've just been really impressed with how like crazy awesome people are, like the crazy awesome lengths people are going to really bump up their toy photography. And it's like, it's inspiring to see so many really talented people doing stuff like that. It's really inspiring as just somebody who like loves the figures. It makes me want to go, oh, maybe I should go take a cool photo of that Gigan figure there, as I probably should. But I know that literally the first people that come up in my brain when I think kaiju toy photography, like the number one person is my number one homie up in Seattle, Washington, and that is David Dopko. David, I cannot wait to hear what you are going to share with us about your kaiju toy photography journey.
Yeah, shucks, everybody. It's definitely this show is really means a lot to me, as you can probably imagine. And yeah, I'm going to echo what Kyle said. I've just been so inspired by everyone's like incredible toy photographs that I've been seeing, and the real boost of photos and creativity and the Gods and Monsters photography group just blows me away and constantly inspires me to up my game like every single day. So thank you guys for that. So, basically my segment is going to be just about showing you some photos and briefly discuss a few tips and techniques that I use to get those photos. So Kyle, we can just jump right in if you'd like to roll my footage. So basically I use a Nikon D7000, which is a digital single lens reflex or DSLR camera. And next slide. This is actually a standard 18 to 105 millimeter lens. It's an old workhorse. I use a Speedlight SB700 digital flash. And then finally, I use a plastic flash diffusing cap, which comes in real handy when you're trying to get more illumination and not get that really annoying flash that kind of can ruin a photo sometimes. So and one more thing, I also use the iPhone 11 Pro Plus because it's portable and I have it with me all the time and it's super convenient and it takes some pretty damn awesome photos. So yeah, so here's me doing what I love doing at the Subaraya Museum, photographing not necessarily a toy, but a toy that I would love to have in my collection, the Sukai 54 Shodai Godzilla suit. Yeah, there's that. So I'm just going to talk a little bit while we're showing these pictures. Talk a little bit about how I got started in the hobby. I got started about 10 years ago when I entered a contest here in Seattle called Japantown Exposed, and that was in 2013. And actually, that photo, I entered that photo and two others, and that one and another one got honorable mention, and it really gave me a great boost of confidence. And this is, of course, a Bandai Ultraman figure, and I entitled this photo "Hero on Main Street." Now, Main Street is the main area of the Seattle Japantown, so it was really, really popular, and I got a lot of really great feedback from that particular photo. And then the following summer, I was asked by my good buddy Kyle Yount to accompany him and his crew to Japan to be the official still photographer for his incredible Hail to the King Godzilla documentary. And definitely that was the main highlight of my time in this fandom so far. So Kyle, I'll be eternally grateful for that experience. Thank you so much. I will never forget it.
Dude, I'm so glad you went.
So this sort of relates to that. So that is actually a Pilot Ace gold 65 Godzilla that I bought at the Mandarake across the street about an hour before we did our interview. And I thought it would be fun to put it on the table for just like a background effect. So what was so great is to see these guys, these iconic Toho actors that we've been seeing for years and since we were kids, discussing it, holding it, posing with it, and it just enhanced the whole experience. So yeah, I mean, that really was the icing on the cake for that interview. So there's a few more.
Only because I want to be thorough. That is Yoshio Tsuchiya on the left, Akira Kubo in the middle, and you can't see her, but Yukiko Kobayashi's head is right behind Akira Takarada on the right-hand side.
And that's me crawling around the floor trying to get those shots. And there, I somehow got them to pose, and there he's. I love that shot right there, and I got each one of them to pose with it, which is pretty amazing.
That right there, that segment right there, that alone, you should watch that documentary because of that one interview. The whole documentary is awesome. Not probably the best Godzilla documentary that I've seen ever, but that interview right there with all those actors, with Kyle and all them, that alone should sell you to go out and watch this documentary over and over and over again. Great work, gentlemen.
I would also like to say, like, in terms of awesome documentaries, I just have to say Bringing Godzilla Down to Size is also, I think the best Godzilla documentary. Just had to say that because I can't take too many compliments. So
I agree. It's another one. If you haven't seen it, please check that out too. So next, of course, this was at Monsterpalooza. I love this photo of the man himself, the late great Haruo Nakajima, and a signed glow-in-the-dark Marmot Godzilla figure. I mean, these next few photos I have are of Nakajima signing and posing with various Godzilla figures. Oh, there he is with the Oxygen Destroyer. I just think these, are incredible, and they mean so much to me. And I'm so glad that I was able to spend precious time with him and his daughter, and just get these shots that I'll always have. So. Yeah, and there's the actual figure that he signed, one of my favorite pieces. Now, the next couple photos are going to be photos of some people that you may recognize signing and mugging with toy photos.
Nice. Shinji Nishikawa. Can I just be that guy that calls out the names of everybody? Kotani.
Yeah, these were really fun. Oh, look who it is. Who's that guy?
Who's
that guy? And who's that guy? Wow.
Oh my God.
Sadly, I did not have one of my friend John Ruffin, but that will change the next time we get together. I'm going to do a whole photo shoot of John Ruffin.
Oh, that's
all right.
So I think next up, I've got some more photos to show you, and it's good that I'm talking over them, so we can save a little bit of time that way. The next ones should be coming soon.
All right, that is happening. Come on, right about now.
Cool. That's kind of not the one that we need right now, but that's.
Are we doing depth of field?
No, we're doing the. It's still on the first part, Kyle. It's still on the very first section.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, for some reason those didn't open. Yeah, technology. We're gonna get this going.
It's okay.
Yeah.
We'll get it together.
Nice. All right, hang on one sec.
No
I
problem.
See where we left off. There we go. There's Christine. Okay.
Yeah, it should be right after Christine. No problem. Let's just see what's coming next.
No. Wait.
There. No,
except that's at the very beginning. Hang on. Let me stop sharing the screen for a minute because this is just embarrassing everybody.
So while he's doing that, I'm going to show you the shirt I'm wearing. The shirt is actually a shirt that I made of a photo that I took about a year ago. This is the X Plus Sakai Kiryugoji. So I figured that would be appropriate to wear today.
So cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun things you can do with your toy photos, people.
While Kyle's getting himself together, once again, ladies and gentlemen, today is not only a special day because we're doing our newest Collectible Monsters episode, But this guy turns 46 today. Yes, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 1974 came out on this day in 1974. So yeah, after you're done watching this awesome episode, why don't you pipe it in and have a good time with it? Oh yeah.
The best.
All right. I think I've figured out how to fix this problem.
Okay, cool.
All right.
Yes. Okay. All right. So these are, I have to mention, these are articles that I wrote for 3 separate issues of Famous Monsters of Filmland magazine. The first one that's shown here is actually, yeah, there we go, is actually featuring my toy collection and an article that features an article that talks about my toy collecting journey. And I was just so incredibly honored and proud to be having something published in a magazine that was so iconic to me and I loved so much as a child. So it all seemed to come full circle. And thank you so much to Mr. August Rigoni for making that happen and for facilitating that. I'll be eternally grateful to you, sir, for that. That's the cover of the second issue that I did. And there's the inside article. And yeah, oh, okay. Now this is actually a magazine called Mad Scientist by Martin Arlt, in which I showcased some photos of my Aurora monster model collection. That's just a cool little thing that I did a few years ago. Thanks to Martin for inviting me to do that. So I've been really lucky to have some of my photos featured in GFan magazines over the years. I'm going to direct your attention to this specific episode, this specific issue, where I did an interview with Mark Justice about my toy photography journey, and it features some of my work in there as well. Now, aside from that, I also did a book for Kyle's Kickstarter contributors for the Hail to the King project. This is a small book that went out to all of the awesome contributors who helped make that possible. And I also did a larger one for members of the crew. That's the inside of the smaller one, and that's the larger one that I made for some members of the crew.
That book, this one here, super limited edition, we might as well
that's
say.
Right. That's right.
I think maybe 50 people at the most got that one.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes, and it was my pleasure to create that for the awesome contributors who helped us make that possible. So thanks to all of them, and I hope you enjoy the book. And there's just some more photos that of the larger edition. And every year since 2014, I've kind of been doing G-Fest photo memory books, and that's just one of the more recent ones that I did. And that's just the inside of the G-Fest. Oh, John DeSantis and Chris Olio did a Symphonic Fury concert a few years ago, which I'm sure you guys remember, and it was pretty incredible. And they asked me to do a little mini book for the Kickstarter contributors as well. So there's that book, and there's the inside of that one.
Oh, big time.
Now, most recently, I am so honored and excited and proud that I was asked to be featured in 2 of John Ruffin's My Kaiju magazines. Really a class act.
My honor.
The first one deals with Shin Godzilla. So I took some photos of the Sakai Shin Godzilla and the X Plus gigantic Shin Godzilla. And the second issue I'm especially proud of because I got a whole photo spread dedicated to Showa toys, and I got to shoot a bunch of my Showa toys. So, John, thank you so much. Much appreciated.
Oh, thank you.
Just an honor to see my work be published in such a class act as your magazine.
Yeah, bless you. My honor. Thank you for making the second issue, especially bigger and better. So I appreciate it.
It was totally my honor. So we can just continue on if you'd like to do that.
So now depth of field, right?
No, next is depth of field, correct. Yes, sorry. Yes.
Okay. All right.
So we're going to talk a little bit about depth of field. And depth of field basically refers to if your camera is on manual setting to create the effect, you select a wide aperture, and aperture is the opening. That's actually, oh yes, that's correct. Aperture is the opening of the lens the light passes through. And to do this, you get as close as possible to the subject and then focus in on what you want to be sharp. So if you have an iPhone, especially a newer iPhone like iPhone 11 Pro Plus, which I do have, you can do this. You can set your camera to do this, or you can manipulate the photos afterwards to increase the depth of field. So let's go through a couple of those just to show some examples of that. You can see the depth of field creates like a sharp, crisp image that you focus on and a blurred background. Sorry, I didn't explain that very well. That was a little bit convoluted, but I think you get the idea when you see these photos. And that is actually my rock wall behind there. I just shot one yesterday to really illustrate the idea and concept of depth of field. Yeah, that's actually a music box that I sat on my front porch on the railing, and that's the tree behind it, which you can barely make out. Yeah, this one I shot yesterday of the Mothra in our pear tree, and Mothra in pear tree. I just couldn't resist doing that. I had to do it. Sorry. Yeah, that you can see. So yeah, but that's depth of field.
Fabulous.
And so next we're going to talk about what I think is one of the most important components in taking a successful toy photo, lighting and the use of a light box. So, so basically, when I shoot a photo, my preferred choice is to go outside and use natural outdoor light. And it's best to do it on an overcast day, slightly overcast day, so you don't get any harsh shadows. And there's something called the golden hour, which is about an hour after dawn and an hour before dusk, where the sun is super high in the sky and it sort of creates these reddish tones and a soft light that just looks really beautiful and creates some pretty amazing images. I think I've got some images, Kyle, of that.
Yes, you do.
Coming up at some point.
Boom.
There we go. So yeah, this is just a quick example that I put of. Yes, I knew my friend would dig that one, of how different lighting and angle how different it can be on a photo. So you can see all different types of natural lighting, outdoor lighting, forced lighting, below lighting, above lighting, all different kind of things. So that's just the example. See how different things can look. So I thought that was a good illustration for you guys. Now, the light box is another way that you can get some fun photos. Now, this is one that I have that I just bought. It's about $50. I can leave a link, Kyle, at some point. We could add it to the show notes if anybody's interested in purchasing one. But a light box is great because what it does is it comes with some neutral colored backdrops and a nice soft light strip that gives a nice even light. So yeah, so this is just some examples of things. This is the M1 Matango figure, Mommy Matango figure. And I have now a little video that I put together of how I actually got this figure together. So,
and folks, you know what? This is a great photograph, and she looks cute and all that. But don't let this photo fool you. That movie is creepy. I just wanted to let y'all know that right now. That movie is creepy.
It's a super creepy movie, and this particular figure was on my Grail list, and Kyle was kind enough to bring it back from Japan a few years ago. So thank you for that.
Right.
So this is basically just utilizing iPhotos tools and using iPhotos tools. So basically what I do is the first thing you do is crop the photo to your specifications.
Do you need me to run it back a little bit, David, or is this okay right now?
No, you can just keep going.
Okay.
So what I'm doing now is I'm cropping it to the specifications that I would like to see. Pretty easy to do. And there's that. And then the next thing I'm going to do is go over to my toolbar and I'm going to decrease the light to sort of eliminate that shadow. You see my hand is doing the same thing. I actually narrated this video, but I figured it'd be easier to narrate it with me instead of listening to just me narrating it. Anyhow.
David, you're ruining the illusion.
I'm ruining the illusion. Yeah, so I've definitely decreased the light source, and I'm also going to punch up the black so you can completely no longer see the shadow that was there. Mm-hmm. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is zoom in on the edit mode, and I'm going to eliminate some of the blemishes and flash points that may have appeared while I was shooting this photo. And I'm just going to go through that now. It seemed a lot more interesting when I was doing it, but you just have to bear with me. So right now what I'm doing is I'm just using the tool to eliminate the flash points and some of the blemishes on there. Just really basic stuff. I know John is going to talk about some more intricate photo editing and post-production. Then after that, when I'm satisfied with that, I actually am going to jump into adjusting the color a little bit. And I think what happened as I was doing this is I actually went too far and I had to backtrack. So yeah, so I'm doing it a second time. So I'm going to ask you guys before, when we catch up, have any of you guys ever used a Lightbox before? Kyle, John, Leslie?
I've used the Lightbox, but like only like someone else's Lightbox.
Okay. They really come in handy for smaller figures like Yamomark, US Toys, Marmot M1. They're really not that great for larger figures with long tails. So a trick that I use if I do want to photograph an X Plus toy is I like to take the tail off so he'll actually fit in there.
Oh, so David, so a Lightbox wouldn't work with the gigantic series, right?
It would not work with the gigantic series at all. No. But
Done.
Yeah, it would not work with the gigantic series. But yeah, so now we've caught up. I'm adjusting the color on her and giving her a more natural skin tone, about as natural as you can get for a plastic toy. So yeah, that's happening. And it's taking a lot longer than I thought. But anyway, you can see with the toolbar, how simple it is to manipulate a photo and to get it to your specifications. So,
I think it's also not just interesting. Like this is iPhoto, right? This is what comes with the Max. Right?
It does come with the Mac. It's the basic iPhoto tools that you can use, which anybody can use these.
I'm embarrassed. I've never seen this before.
No,
this is great.
No, yeah,
I mean,
same for me too. I came up using Photoshop, so I've never even I used iMovie for like the first time over my vacation a couple weeks ago.
This is sort of like a budget version of Photoshop, but it gets the job done, as you can see.
Right.
And like I said, the tools aren't as sophisticated as some of the ones in Light and Photoshop, but again, I've been using it for years, and it suits my purposes for the photos that I'm intending to shoot. So
brilliant.
There it
Very
is,
good.
and there's the final photo. Sorry that was a little bit convoluted, but we get the idea there. Let's see, what are we going to talk about next? Let's talk about what is next.
Is that angle and forced perspective?
Angle and forced perspective is next. That's correct.
All right. My software is just not being friendly to me
that's
today.
Okay. So I'm going to talk about forced perspective, what it is a little bit. Forced perspective is a technique that creates an optical illusion to make an object appear closer, further away, larger or smaller than it actually is. And it can also be utilized to manipulate the perspective of the viewer. And you got it? Here we go.
Got it.
And let's see I forgot what's coming up next. Yes. Okay. So this is the best way to illustrate this. This is the collection of Andy Peters, who lives here in Seattle, and he has an incredible diorama of his in-scale buildings. And it's on a raised table, and it's always good to have it on a raised platform or table so you can get eye level with your subject, which is really good. So this is the photo before I did anything to it. I was just down on my knees, and I shot that photo just as you can see it. And then the next one is actually the edited one, where you can see where I sort of manipulated the perspective of the viewer, and it looks like you're kind of looking up onto Godzilla. So
that town is screwed.
I'm sorry?
That town is screwed big time.
Oh yeah, that district of Tokyo, wherever it is not happy campers by any stretch of the imagination. This is an overhead shot. It's pretty cool. Oh yeah, it's okay. And just to see how the buildings look differently there. This is, of course, the X Plus gigantic Godzilla using. I think he's up on a trash can, and I'm shooting from below, looking up at him into the natural sky. So that's pretty much another example of that.
Nice.
This is sort of a weak example of forced perspective, because that Ultraman, that's the gigantic Ultraman. It is pretty big, and that is a Gashapon Hayata. But I just thought it was kind of cool to include that one in this section here. This is that's the Rick Hedra Smog Monster figure from Andy's collection. And there's the Gorosaurus. I was actually down on my back shooting this up, looking up into a fern, as if he's on Mondo Island. This one I shot in a park by my house, and he's sitting on top of a trash can. And I remember this specifically because I fell over into the mud shooting that picture.
Oh, no.
And someone walked by, and the little girl asked me, why am I taking a picture of a dinosaur on a trash can? And I was like, okay. Yeah. So yeah, these are just some more examples of some angles and forced perspective. Go through those. That's one of my favorite photos.
Awesome. Yeah.
That is the last scene of Mothra versus Godzilla, and that is actually fake spider web, not photoshopped, from Archie McPhee, because I bought it not at Halloween, where it's available in every drugstore or supermarket. So yeah, this is another forced perspective where I think Keith was holding the Ghidra, where I got behind him and I shot it as if he's swooping down onto our heroes on Planet X. And this is my Gyra figure in Andy's awesome setup again. And of course, I had to include this. But this is basically a Ultraman statue that Kyle and I came across on a very hot August morning in Ikebukuro, outside of the Sunshine Building. And Ultraman's not that big. It was about 12 feet tall, Kyle, would you say?
I think, yeah, it's like 10 to 12 feet tall.
But I got up onto the platform behind him and sort of made it seem like Ultraman is a lot bigger than he is, and he's about to attack Kyle with his Spacium beam. I don't know why, but he is.
I'm an alien. That's why.
You are an alien. Yeah, yes, you are. All right, so that's it for that section. And I think next we're going to talk about my famous rock wall and backgrounds. Is that what's next? What do you have next?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
All right. Bum, 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 ba-dum.
I'll go through this a little faster.
It's the rock wall.
It's the famous rock wall. Okay, so I've got this rock wall outside in the backyard, and this is basically what it just looks like. It's a bunch of rocks, like a retaining wall for the next door neighbor's yard, and that's just the figure before I did anything to it. And the next photo is after I got down on my knees, shot it from a different angle, and punched up the color a little bit. And as you can see, it looks totally different. And this is the Iwakura cast Meganeuron that I kind of shoved into a little crack there. And there I focus a little more in on it to make him look larger. And then the next one, yeah, that's one that I manipulated to make it look like he's much bigger and he's coming out of a cave. So it's just a lot of fun. And there's another section of the rock wall that has some.
I can hear him. I can hear the noise.
You can hear that creepy, squeaky noise on there.
Chittering, yeah.
That chittering sound. And there's just one that I got down low. Just be careful. Oh yeah, this is a little teeny tiny Hokusai Kappa Gashapon that some friends brought back from Japan that I put on the rock wall on a rainy, misty day, and I just thought that was a really fun photo. And that's my recent purchase, the Smog Monster outside. A section around the corner, there's like a little hole in it that almost looks like a cave. I made the dark. I punched up the black because the wall ends right where his tail is, so you can just kind of see the back. But I wanted to look like he tunneled his way out of a cave.
Nicely done.
Thank you. This is a little tiny X Plus resin cast Ragon figure that I just photographed out there. And of course, there's the old battle of the century where I was rooting for Godzilla. Hint, hint.
Me too.
I think, Leslie, that's your cue, man.
That is your cue. He smiled. That's all we needed. That's all we needed. And I love this, the way this shot came out. That's the Iwakura cast Kumonga that I found a perfect little crevice for him to crawl out of.
Great.
Oh, how'd that get there? There's some scary kaiju outside of my rock wall. Of course, that's James and John.
The Rick Boy releases.
The Rick Boy releases. And there's Dodongo coming out of the cave as he did in the episode. And that's just another section of it. That's the landing version of Hedorah.
Beautiful color.
Thank you so much. And that is the Daimajin, the Wrath of Daimajin coming out of the crack. And there's the, of course,
man,
the 62 gigantic. Yes. And there's Red King.
Red King.
And of course, one of my favorite pieces of my collection, the Rodan, that I always really worry about taking outside, because if he falls on his beak, it's all over. It's all over. So yes. All right. Now, next we're going to briefly talk about other backgrounds. This is actually a canvas sky background that I bought, that I hang up in the garage and shoot with. This one's a poster of Mount Fuji that I set up the Destroy All Monsters X Plus diorama in front of, which is pretty cool. This is one that I just used from a standard neutral background from the Lightbox of a really cool Marmot. There's another Lightbox photo of the gray. This is actually a big piece of cardboard, of red cardboard that I took outside and I put up against the wall of the house outside and shot that photo outside in natural light. Beautiful. This is just something that you guys can do for your light boxes, because it only does come with 3 or 4 colors. You can go to Michael's or any craft store and buy whatever kind of groovy paper that you want to use as a background. Just cut it to the size of the back of your light box, and there you have it, some homemade backgrounds that just cost pennies. And again, outside gigantic. These are just examples of colored paper that you can use.
Nice.
If you get inspired.
Beautiful color.
That's it for that section. Now let's just move right along to the next section, which is kind of a fun section, whimsical and tongue-in-cheek photos that I've taken over the years that I want to show you guys.
You want to do that one, or you want to do the outdoor travel shots?
Oh, is that what's next? Okay, sorry. Outdoor travel shots are next. Sorry, my bad. I have a list. So outdoor travel shots. I think Kyle and I talked about this before a little bit. It's always fun and a good idea to take a little Gashapon figure or small figure with you, no matter where you go, on vacation, to the store, outside. Every time it snows here in Seattle, I get super excited to do some snow-inspired kaiju photos. This is, of course, Pigila, the last and the only time we got a little bit of pathetic dusting here in Seattle. I didn't have much of an opportunity this year. That is, of course, the Yukinko, a.k.a. Snow Girl, calling for her guardian Wu to come and help her. There's Kyle's travel buddy, my travel buddy as well. We took him to the Arashiyama Bamboo Grove in Kyoto. There he is in Sapporo. And there he is in Kyoto at the Fushimi Inari Shrine.
Beautiful.
And I think that is, what did I say that was?
I think that's Gyukaku, the Japanese steak place.
Yes, indeed. He's hanging out on the side of my bowl, yes. And let's see. Oh, yeah, this one is photo that I took of John and Christine's special Desu Gojis in Palm Springs. This is actually in Joshua Park.
Amazing. Oh,
and
that's awesome.
U.S. Toys Ultraman, again in Palm Springs the year before, poolside, hanging out by the trees. by the palm trees.
Great depth of field.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And this is, of course, last year, right before we went to Japan, we got a little dusting of snow. And, of course, one of the movies featured Daimajin coming out of the snow. And you got to do a woo shot every time it snows, and that's the X Plus woo. Across the street, actually, he was on top of a neighbor's car, and that's just a bunch of ivy with snow on it behind there. And there is Coronia feeling right at home in my fern garden. That's actually the little mini Volks resin Coronia that I built and painted. That's a Marmot G2K at the beach at West Seattle, Alki Beach. And I thought that the green and the little orange on his chest really matched nicely with the poppies in our neighbor's yard. But that was kind of fun.
That's an amazing shot.
John Bumpus was here a week and a half ago. We went to the Japanese garden and we brought along some friends with us. So there's the shot of that. And this one, I was just going to the store to get some supplies, and I had the Matango in my pocket. Is that a Matango in your pocket? Or you're just happy to see me. Anyway, that's Matango, and there was a tree that fell, and I thought, well, like fungus growing on a fallen log would be kind of whimsical. So there's that. And this guy was a gift from Eugene Michi from M1 that Kyle and I got. And this is taken from our balcony in Tokyo, in Kamagome neighborhood. And this is Woo in next to a glacier. Oh, wait, no, it's the 7-Eleven parking lot in Sapporo. Who is the guy that brings Godzilla toys on their honeymoon? This one. I brought them to Gashapon to Tahiti and Moorea with me because I thought that Moorea, being way down in the South Pacific, would be kind of close to Monster Island and Lychee Island and Mothra Island. So there they are in the surf in Tahiti. Yeah, I'm crazy. This is a little Gashapon Gezira in that's Allison Lake in British Columbia. And of course, there's the obligatory Son of Godzilla snow picture. Little Godzilla in Palm Springs yet again. And oh, there's my buddy Kyle with his little travel buddy. Nice. This is a little fun marmot goji at the tulip fields in Mount Vernon here in the Northwest. I just thought would be kind of a fun shot. Little Totoro figure in the woods on a hike that I took. And I think this is the last one. This is actually a shot of Godzilla in Nakano. That's right behind the Broadway Mall outside.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, yeah. We're back to the beginning again.
All right. Nice.
And let's see. What's the next one?
Let's see. The next section would be the whimsical tongue in cheek.
Okay, we can go a little bit faster through these because I hope you guys are still with me here.
All right.
So basically, what I'm showing you here are just toys that are just fun, tongue-in-cheek, seasonal. You can do it for holidays, birthdays, all kinds of stuff. That's my little neighbor, mugging with the Bandai Godzilla. Just have fun, have a sense of humor. I love that shot. That's my Thanksgiving homage. And there's that was actually a Christmas card one year. But yeah, whimsical, fun, tongue in cheek. Have fun, get creative. Yeah, there's always tomorrow. Maybe not. Yeah.
Cool. That's good.
Yeah, there's sushi. And yeah, that was my Valentine's Day shot. And there's
Nice.
I love those little Yamamark sushi kaiju figures. Those are actually a lot of fun. And there's poor Pigman, no one to play with. And that was a little Halloween image that I did. Kind of creepy. Okay, what's wrong with this picture? Whimsical, tongue-in-cheek, sense of humor. That's not the right monster, but that's okay.
Kong is on his back where he should be.
And other ones like, who put this in my lagoon? You know, really? You're going to put this in my lagoon? Whatever. That was taken in front of Keith's fish tank. That was just set right up in front of the fish tank. Looks like they're actually in the fish tank. They're not. They're right in front of it, which is kind of fun. And there's our late bearded dragon Guanji battling the 62 Kong in my front yard. She passed away last year. She was 10.
Oh.
There's a little patriotic Godzilla holding the American flag. And I think maybe I added that one twice. Oh, and this is funny. I took this to the grocery store one day and I stuck the Kappa next to the cucumbers, and they got a couple looks from the grocery people. But I just needed to get a shot of him in his element, and he's totally stoked to get those cucumbers. And again, you can do like fun things for birthday. Another whimsical, tongue-in-cheek, Frankenstein versus Barragan. You know, ha ha ha. This one I just shot because of the anniversary of Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, and I think the caption I wrote was, "Really, dude, we were here first." Yeah, funny. Here's a little sneak peek of my Easter shot. I'm going to be posting that at some point soon. And this is just a little bonsai, my bonsai I brought inside and shot it against the fake sky with a little Totoro on top. And that's that. There's all that one. Those.
Excellent.
All right.
All right, let's just zoom through the next section, which I believe is black and white.
Yes, it is black and white.
It is black and white. Everything is not black and white, but it is black and white. Now, black and white photos are great to emphasize light, shadow, shapes, patterns, and texture and composition that you wouldn't normally see in a colored shot. So here's just some examples of what I just mentioned of, you know, shapes, texture, and composition. And it's also good to showcase nuances in skin and scale of these monster toys, which is really fun. I love shooting black and white photos or changing them over to black and white if the figures the movies that the figures appeared in were actually shot in black and white. So that's just something that you guys can do if you'd like. And there's the big battle on the island. As you can see, the texture of the skin shows up much better in the black and white, more than it would in color. Especially like Gomez is a perfect example because you can see his scale.
Yeah, really Gomez is always a perfect example. Always.
Yes, well, yes. Of course, we already do that. And Lagos, of course. And you can see, and it also creates drama too. I mean, that is a lot more dramatic with the lights and the shades, the lights and shading, and as the train biter. And there's you can just see some examples there. This is actually, some people actually repainted this to make it look like it's not burning. You can do the same thing with some photo tricks, and you know that's just the black and white version of the X Plus gigantic Desugoji. And let's see what we got next. Yeah, that's just having fun with some shading there.
Awesome.
Yep. I think that's it for that.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Yep. All right, moving right along. I think I have a few examples of filters.
All right. Why don't you talk a little bit about filters while I get this folder open?
Sure. Filters are just kind of fun, whimsical things you can add to a photo through Instagram, iPhoto, and there's just like a gazillion apps out there. One of them being, I think it's called Prisma that I used to use that I don't really use anymore. Do you guys use filters occasionally, or it's just a little fun way to show some interest and do color and interesting things. Anyway, here's some filters that I've used for photos. I think that one is actually Prisma, and it kind of makes that effect there. And
awesome, like stained glass.
Yeah, it looks like stained. That one actually really
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of apps. There's a lot of free apps that do this. Pretty much everything that you see here, is a free app because I'm not paying for that.
I love that Gabor. I love that Gabor.
Yes, you do. Okay, so the next thing we got is is collaborative. Is that what's next?
I'm gonna make it next. Yes.
It can be next.
All right, where are you?
This is just just 4 photos that I put together of photos that I took that other people worked on to make these final effects here. This one is my Destroy All Monsters that I shot in front of the poster of Mount Fuji, and Sam Torres added the clouds to it. There was no clouds in it. And this is one that I did with Jeremy Soules and also with John Ruffin. I think we used that for a prize for one of the photo contests we had at G-Fest. And this is a fun one done. I took a photo of Seattle, and that's actually my photo of the '64 Godzilla, and John Stanowski photoshopped those two together to make Godzilla invading Seattle.
Nice.
This is one that I absolutely love. This is my model kit that I shot, and then Ray Alvarez photoshopped this. I think this is actually Cuba. I know it's supposed to be Odo Island, and for our purposes, it's Odo Island, but I think it's actually in Cuba. So there's that photo there, and that's it for that.
All right.
Next, I think I just added some fun photos of me with some of you guys getting some photos called getting that perfect shot. I think that was the next one.
Okay, it's coming up.
Okay.
In just a second.
Sure. So we usually try to go out on little photo safaris when we get a chance, and when people come visit me in Seattle, we tend to do that. Actually, that's James at G-Fest on the bed trying to get the perfect shot of his Desu Goji with his camera phone. There's me in Sapporo. That was the one that was supposed to be a glacier, but it's the 7-Eleven parking lot in Sapporo. And there's my friend Kyle shooting his little travel buddy on a really big snowbank alongside of that what is that thing called? Fire hydrant. And that's my little neighbor Jacob taking a shot with his iPad. And there's me and Mr. Fresh himself, Rich Iso, at Gasworks Park shooting some Marmot toys. And that's it for that. And I think we are almost at the end of my segment. Thank you all for bearing with me.
All right, hang on.
What's next? I think next is favorites from my collection. Is that what that is?
Yeah, my best shots.
My best shots. My best shots. In my opinion, these are my best shots that I've taken over the years. And I think, as you guys can probably see, my strong point is portraiture. I can't say that word. Shooting portraits. So you can judge for yourself, but I think that's my strongest point, is shooting portraits. And these are just some that I really think are successful photos that I've shot. And we can go through those pretty quick.
Wow.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome.
Yeah, and you can see some of the techniques that I discussed earlier on. You can notice them in these photos, hopefully.
I have to say, David, your work when it comes to the 25 centimeter Godzilla 2000 makes me appreciate this figure a whole lot more.
Oh, thanks for saying that. I appreciate that.
That facial shot is just like, when I see it on Facebook, I just immediately come up here and be like, man, I don't regret getting this guy, because I almost passed on this, but your photographs make me really glad I didn't pass on this guy. So thank you very much.
No, thanks for saying so. I mean, that's one of the reasons that I'd like to do this, to inspire you guys to play with your toys, not play with them, but appreciate these toys that we spend a lot of time and money getting. And, you know, we get the maximum enjoyment out of these by doing things like this and sharing them with other people. And when I hear stories like that, it really makes me happy. So, and
you know, David, there was something you taught me, if I could share.
Sure.
For a moment,
Of
that
course.
you haven't mentioned. I don't want to steal your thunder, but you always talk about lighting the eyes. And when you mentioned that some time ago to me, that was everything. That was a really helpful tip.
Thank you for reminding me that, because I'll add that in my final thoughts. I think we have one more section, Kyle, do we?
Yeah, sorry. It was trying to load an image and it wasn't loading, so I had to redo
Okay.
some stuff. But here's still going through that same folder.
So my final thoughts while we're going through these is what John said. I really like to, even outside, I like to use the diffused flash, because I think it's really important when you're shooting a monster toy that you illuminate the eyes, because the eyes are the soul of the figure, really. And if they're just blacked out, maybe sometimes that's the effect you're going for, but it makes so much more difference when you can actually see the eyes. So use that flash, diffuse flash, even outside. And what I do basically is I try my best to set up my shot to take the best shot I can, so I can do a minimum in post-production, because I basically only use the iPhoto tools. And the only things that I really do are maybe punch up the color, maybe sharpen, maybe, punch up the black, and a little vignetting and some cropping. And that's really it. That my photos pretty much are as I shoot them. So that's my advice, is take extra time to set up the photo, and then you don't have to do a lot in post-production, especially if you don't have fancy equipment or light Photoshop or anything like that. So all of you guys can do this. I'm always available to answer any questions you might have or help out in any way that I can. So I hope this was a little bit helpful for you. Sorry, I talked a little bit too long and some of it was a little convoluted, but there you have it. That's pretty much my photos. Yeah, there's some fun ones there.
Beautiful.
And then
I can see why these are your favorites.
My very, very last section that I'm going to talk about before we do our intermission is what I call the Hall of Fame. Now, as I mentioned before, I'm so inspired by so many of you guys out there who have submitted some incredible photographs to the Gods and Monsters Photography group on Facebook. And I can't say this enough, inspires me constantly, inspires all of us, I think. And I just wanted to put together some photos of shots that I think are amazing that you guys have submitted over the years. So here you go. And here's a round of applause for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
We can just go through these.
Beautiful.
Just really great work, inspires me constantly.
And why don't you go ahead and tout that Facebook group while we're doing this, David?
Oh yes. It's a Facebook group called Gods and Monsters Photography Group, and please join. We'd love to have you. It's a nice, chill, drama-free group, and we just take pictures, and we don't really critique each other's. We just kind of inspire each other, and you're welcome to join. And it's been really kind of on fire lately. So thank you for that, everybody. And yeah, these are all just amazing photos of you guys and your incredible work. Oh, I wanted to thank Harold Ruiz, who actually is featured in some of these photos. That's his photo right there. Figure
Mania show, yeah.
Figure Mania.
Figure Mania Taiwan.
Awesome work.
He does awesome work, and thank you so much, Harold, for promoting our show and all the beautiful things that you've been doing over the last couple of years, and one of our main inspirations. So thank you so much for that. And just have some amazing.
These are incredible.
Yep. Really like blows me away constantly and inspires me.
Great work. Even though
Absolutely.
that Godzilla and Kong shot annoyed me just now, but it's still great work.
So keep up the good work. I can't wait to see what you guys do next. And thank you.
Awesome.
All right.
And that's about it for my segment. So again, thanks for listening, and I hope you guys learned something. And again, if you have any questions, never hesitate to ask me. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Hey, Leslie, while I get the next video ready and get our intermission ready, do you want to highlight anything from the chat? I saw a
Yes.
whole bunch of people up in there talking about camera stuff. I saw a bunch of people talking about copyright-free music of all things.
You know what? That is what's so great about these shows is that, you know, we have people not only joining in and taking advice from these wonderful people, enjoying the content, but also they're talking amongst themselves. And right now, I think we need that. That this is what is most needed right now with the world going through what it's going through. Really, at the end of the day, I mean, it's nice to have these figures and these collectibles and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, we really do have each other. You know what I'm saying? And so I want to thank everybody in the chat for just chatting it up, having a great time. Sentinel, Phil the Kaiju King, Mark Sang Yang, Godzilla Train 1090, Gojira 851, Demon by Design, Earth, Stope. Keep on doing it. Keep on doing it. You know what I'm saying? Because like I said, we're going through something right now, but it's just nice that we can just turn that off for at least 2 hours and just have a great time and fun and boisterous time. And thank you, David, for the great commentary. I learned some great stuff that I will apply for my photography or me taking photos moving forward. And I'm looking forward to hearing what the great John Ruffin has to say.
Me too.
Soon. So this has been great. Absolutely great.
Right on. All right. Well, we're going to take our intermission, which is about a 6-minute video that's going to play. And in that video, we see some classics from Japan, but also a little tour of Andy Peters' in-scale photography setup. So
Awesome.
we'll be back right after this.
Hey there, David from Collect All Monsters here, still at Andy Peters' Kaiju Cave, and he's going to give us a little rundown for our toy photography episode about how he goes about making awesome shots like this with his N-scale building collection. So take it away, Andy.
Right. By the way, that is signed by Satsuma-san himself,
yes.
who is quite impressed with this, needless to say. So you've seen these shots, but if you peel back and like get a shot above it even,
I will.
you can see it's not, if you look above it, oh, it looks a little worse, doesn't it? That's because it is set to one perspective. Each one of these is just set to a camera eye, like as if it's meant to be you're sitting in front of it and watching it, or even a little lower. So what I would do is I'd set this up, you'd have the big lights here, and then I'd just get here and, you know, I'd move things around. Okay, this one's not in a shot unless I angle it, for instance, or this one isn't in a shot, or I'll angle it, move the cars right, and then I just sort of, I'll give you this picture, and then you can see what I'm talking about.
Okay.
See?
Got it.
And now, blah. I'll turn the brightness up here. So this looks way different to the naked eye than it would to this camera here. So, ooh, so you can see it's just total garbage. Then you go, oh, 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 look, we're in a movie. It's just classic movie stuff. This one's a little bit different because it's the side city. Who? Oh, there it is.
You got it.
Glanced. See? Then I would clean that out if I wanted, or clean any of the lights out.
A little bit of editing, yeah.
A little bit of editing, yeah.
So that's cool. I know a lot of people have seen your awesome images of this setup over the last couple of years.
Right.
And I myself have taken some pretty
groovy pictures,
of this setup, I must say. So basically, in a nutshell, what Andy was talking about is what I'll talk about a little bit more during the episode. Is it's about angle, background, and lighting.
Lighting, 3-point lighting, please.
Yes.
And by 3-point, I mean one in the front, one backing it up, and one on either side as the fill.
So as we're talking, I can see there's some shadows behind those buildings, which makes it look like it's not a real sky.
Exactly.
So what I would do in that sense, either get the 3-point lighting a little bit more accurate, or use my Nikon and then do some post-production to clean it up. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, it's just something that I figured you folks would really enjoy seeing for this toy photography episode. And Andy, you want to talk just a little bit about how people may acquire these awesome buildings at this point?
Okay, so the problem is I get 2 questions. One from you even. Why don't we move this over here? Why don't we move that? Again, everything is frozen in my collection forever because it is one perspective. But the buildings are the next question. Where do you get all these buildings? First of all, they are N-scale buildings. Almost all of these are N-scale buildings. These are all the choicest ones are obviously in the front. This is my particular favorite here. Problem being, many of these have been discontinued. I know a few companies in like Hobby Links or what? Yeah,
Hobby Japan,
Hobby Japan.
Hobby Search.
They will put an order in, but some people I know have been waiting a year and a half for discontinued merchandise. I don't know if they're gonna make them again, but you're gonna see online these buildings, okay, and you're gonna like them, and you see them on eBay, and you're gonna buy them, and in reality, they're gonna come to you, and they're gonna be this big. So you really need to look for bigger buildings.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm sure you probably remember at one point I had a few of these buildings.
Right.
I thought I was going to acquire more, but
it takes space.
It takes space and it takes money. They're not cheap. Even back in the day, they weren't cheap. And I figured I would never acquire a setup that's nearly as impressive as yours, and I could always come over and utilize your setup.
It used to be. It is exactly. It used to be that people would go, I wanted to collect hetera, but now you just ruined it for me. But now it's like, oh, these buildings are so hard. Screw it. We'll just look at those pictures. They could still be obtained. Paper seems to be now replacing these plastics. Don't recommend.
No. Well, anyway, thank you so much. I just wanted to show the viewers this awesome setup, which you definitely have the quintessential N-scale building setup. So thanks again, Andy. Cheers.
Sure.
Hey, we're back from our intermission, and everybody's not muted, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah, we're all good. Okay, yeah, welcome back to this toy photography episode of Collect All Monsters. Leslie, if you did not catch that, that was my contribution to Mechagodzilla's anniversary. That was footage I actually shot of the Mechagodzilla 2 suit at the DNA exhibit. And I've actually been meaning to put that into a video for the Kaiju Cast, but life gets in the way, and so that'll be eventually in a Kaiju Cast video. But I thought it would be fun to include it in this one here.
Thank you very much. He is awesome. Mechagodzilla, the Showa one, not the Heisei, not Kiryu, not the Anime City one. Showa, baby. He is awesome. That's the best Mechagodzilla ever. You know what? Oh my God, 46 years old. That guy turned 46 years old. Oh my God, making Godzilla bleed, beating the crap out of King Caesar. Oh my God, you gotta love Mechagodzilla. You gotta love Mechagodzilla.
Let's actually ask the people who are watching live to hop in the chat there and tell us what their favorite original Showa era Mechagodzilla collectible is. I would like to know that by the end of the show.
Yes, and there's plenty to choose from X Plus, model kits, Mormons. Mechagodzilla is really, really well represented, and I cannot think of a bad collectible of that version of Mechagodzilla. So I hope to get some. I'm sure we get some great answers from the audience real soon on that.
Chrome Kaiju asked, what was that remix of the Mechagodzilla versus Anguirus song? And that was actually given to me by Chris Marty, who did the intro music for the Kaiju Transmission podcast guys, and so he and I kind of exchanged some emails talking about funky sound and Mechagodzilla stuff. And he's like, "Oh, here, take this. I did this a while ago, and it was perfect." So there you go. Let's see. People are already answering the question. Godzilla Train 1090 says his 75 Mechagodzilla in the 30 centimeter.
Good choice.
And then, yep. SH Monster Arts, I guess, is what Michael Farah is saying. That's cool. I mean, I like those as well. The SH Monster Arts one looks classic. David's showing off his favorite collectible from Mechagodzilla, which is his Space Ape. Anyway, we should probably move along to our very next segment, which is going to be demonstrated by Mr. John Ruffin. John, is there anything you need to me to load up, or are you going to take it from your side?
I'll take it from my side. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, let's get this set up. Okay. It should be, there we go. Awesome. Thanks, Kyle.
Absolutely, sir.
Well, this is an honor to talk about Kaiju Toy Photography. And before I go into details of what I do, I hope the toy photography you do is fun. And that's what it's really all about, is to enjoy what we're doing and just express how much we love Godzilla or Kaiju in general. So just to give you some background about myself and how Kaiju Toy Photography, I'm a self-taught graphic designer. I started graphic design back in the mid-90s, 94, 95. I come from a family of artists, so drawing growing up and was always a thing I did, but I never imagined being a toy photographer. And I started off using the original Macintosh, using Mac Paint, Mac Draw, and things like that. But in 2001, I was inspired to document my collection, having seen several books that I'll mention in a moment. But I never imagined becoming a toy photographer or anything like that. I just wanted to capture my collection, so I'd always have photo representation. And at that time, I wasn't thinking about doing any dioramas or anything like that. That was beyond me. And I had some really wonderful Japanese diorama, or Godzilla diorama books. Probably the most important thing for me in doing toy photography is to study the work of others and to imitate it. And that's kind of what guides me. And in the process, I started with small scale items and worked my way up to larger figures and collectibles. And it's just trial and error and trial and effort. If I showed you all the photos that didn't go right, I'd be truly embarrassed. And I thought about actually, but they're really bad. But I learned a lot over time. And I didn't know where it was going when I started back in 2014 because I stopped. I stopped in 2004 after Godzilla Final Wars. I stopped collecting, regrettably, but it was about a 10-year period. I didn't do any collecting and I didn't think about it. And the camera that I got, I stopped using. I set it aside. I had taken some initial photos, but once I started back up in 2014, I started to see milestones in my development, and that'll be a part of what I share with you. So my first shots back in 2001, what my collection, if anything happened to my collection, I knew I'd always have some photos. And so it was a couple of books that really inspired me. There's Robots and Spaceships, and there are other series of like toy photography photo books that are like really amazing. I go into the ray guns and things like that. And the other was Sean Lincoln Back's Godzilla Collectibles. I wanted to kind of like make a book like that with my photos, And so I went and a friend of mine.
Still do.
I know. That's something we need to think. We need to do some things. Friend of mine, we got an old one of the early digital Nikon cameras. It was $1,100, and I got a setup. I got the background and the big lights on the side. And I knew I wasn't a photographer, but I just tried to capture some shots in my collection. And didn't think, but just try to improve. But most of my shots were burned out from the lighting setup I was using, and it was kind of useless. So I stopped in 2004, and then I started again 14 when I was living in Nagoya, and that was a wonderful time in my life. And I would go to Mandarake and hit all these collectible shops every weekend. And I started my little apartment I was living in. I was building up a little collection. I was like, I can't get too much. And so one Saturday I was watching Godzilla 1954, and I had just picked up, the Godzilla, and the Shea, pose, and I put it in front of my laptop. I said, oh, pull my camera, and the camera that I had then is the one I'm using now. This little Canon E. I said, oh, that's kind of interesting. And then I did it again, like following weekend, and that's kind of the second shot that's here below it. And so I took a picture I found online of Saturn or whatever planet that is, and put it in the background, and then I added some type over top of it. And then the following week I got this kit of Mosu Goji from 1992 and just played around. And nothing, didn't think too much of it, but I was like, this is pretty cool to do. And there's a dozens of other shots in between this and what I'm doing now. And it was a progression. I started with small items like the cat figurines, the Bandai Yuji Sakai figures. I think I have one here that was gifted to me. This is Godzilla 64. I think Leslie will like that one a little bit. But and just experimented. And I used to use my monitor and TV screen as my backdrop because I didn't know how to get, the sky and all those kind of things. I was just experimenting, doing dioramas, some portraits. And I'm so grateful just in those early days for the support that you all have showed me, and Leslie especially. It was a shot I did of GMK, and I think I printed you wanted a poster, but it was in those early, just learning and experimenting stuff. So with that said, I'd like to just share with you what I do, and maybe it'll be fun experience, and you can try out some of the things I do. I'm not a technical photographer. I use a tripod. I don't go outside. I'm inside, and I only do something when I'm inspired. And so my basic process is 7 steps: inspiration, research, set goals, setup, lighting, settings, and post-production. And I get inspiration when I'm on social media, or I'm watching a Godzilla movie, or see some post that's like, man, that's awesome. And I'll find photos on Google searches, and I have this huge directory of favorite photos, Godzilla photos, of gigs of shots that inspire me. But I usually don't do anything. Like, my desire is like, I got to try that out. So once I get inspired, I do some research. I go back to photos that I may have, or I start looking for photos from films and stills and things like that. And so I keep a folder of my favorite shots, inspirational Godzilla shots, on my desktop, on my Razer Macintosh. And so I have also a folder called Shot Ideas. And I will place things that I'd like to shoot that might take me, might be something I do next year. I might need a figure that X Plus or someone hasn't released yet. And I put it aside and come back to it later. Maybe I can do it if I find something that works that'll help me pull off the shot. I'll do a lot of searching online for props, miniature buildings, like we all do. But I'm fortunate to have a great train shop, Nicholas Train Shop, here in the Philadelphia area. They've been around forever, and I'm grateful for them. And I'll go there. They have an incredible toy shop, train shop. And there's a toy shop for tanks and buildings and things like that. Okay, so after I'm inspired, I do my research and try to figure, okay, this is a shot I want to try to do. I'll start setting my goals, and I think this is important, at least for my photography. Why am I shooting it? Yes, I want to do it, but where's the end goal? Is it a diorama? So how much do I have to put into it? Is it a portrait shot, which a little easier setup for me. I don't have much space. And then I think about what's the end goal? Is it for social media, electronic use, or is it for print use? Am I trying to do an ad, a banner, some kaiju cards, a poster, magazine, T-shirt? I try to think end goal. Because when I take my shot, I want it to be the largest. For my graphic design background, I'm always thinking high resolution, be able to reuse it, rescale it up, you know. And so I want to shoot whatever I do, I want in the highest resolution possible, and be able to work it down into whatever format, whatever use that I deem important. So figuring out that is helpful up front. And then I think about format. Is it, you know, dimensions? Is it 8.5 by 11? Is it wide landscape, portrait, things like that? And then resolution. I always try to shoot as big as possible, as high as resolution as possible. Okay. Setup. My setup is actually very small. Right now, sitting in front of my setup. So I'm looking at my two bookshelves of my Godzilla books, and I simply use a foam core background for my backgrounds. Just a sheet of foam core, and I just have 3 colors. And I never, very rarely, only recently have I held my camera in my hand. I can do that for just quick shots if I'm taking pictures of my collection for some box day blog I'm going to do or something. But I use a tripod, and that's my setup. I have a couple lenses, kit lenses that came with my camera. My camera is pretty cheap. It was about $300, and I got a good deal. My friend helped me find it. I have some really cool kit lenses, a pancake lens and a telephoto lens. Now for my lighting, I'm fortunate to have a window to my left that's natural light, and then I have some artificial lighting that I got from IKEA. Just you know, I have their food, the floor light. That's all. $5.99 floor light from IKEA, and I have a ceiling light for filling in light that might be missing off the subject matter. And then I use a food. It's hilarious. A food table, and I have 3 of them, and I extend it when needed. But I mean, that's all I have here. Sorry for the props, but that's it. And if it doesn't fit on the table, then I've got to figure out what else I'm going to do. So, but that's the setup. That's all I use. And on the right here are some really old setup I did. It's probably about 4 years old, maybe now. But when I'm setting up any shot, no matter what, I think in terms of 3 layers: foreground, what's in front; midground, usually subject matter, what I'm going to focus on is in the midground; and then background. And that's just as important. Obviously, background and midground, all of them are important to show some sense of depth. And David talked about forced perspective, but that's really important. If you go shopping and online, think in scales, like Andy's great setup. Scale is everything. So don't buy everything in the same scale. You know, buy things that are in scale, HO scale, because you never know how you want to set up your shot. And if you don't have much space, you have to create that illusion of depth by using things out of scale. The rule of thirds is really important. When David was showing us that iPhoto software and he cropped, you'll notice there were 9 squares. It was divided up in thirds. That's really important to keep in mind. It's something in nature, the Fibonacci sequence and all this great stuff in thirds. We do things in thirds, and it's just profound to study graphic design and grids and just art in general, and you'll learn these natural recurring patterns that are in the way we see things. Well, with that said, the other things I think about are balance and contrast, focus, establishing lines into the subject matter, the thing you're going to focus on, and then the idea of depth and creating some drama in the midground and the background, all the way through to carry one's eye into the focus, to what you're focusing upon, which is also usually a cool figure, great Godzilla figure, or Mechagodzilla or something. With that said, my older photos, I try to just show you. I don't usually get to take a picture of my setup, and usually what I set up I take down quickly. But in this case, in the old days, 4 years ago, I often used just natural light and no additional lighting, and it created enough drama, did enough fill light to do the job. I used to only exclusively kind of shoot during the day, but now I almost shoot more in the evening, and this has changed over time. Okay, here's some of my old setups. It's something for the 46th anniversary Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla in 1974. It's one of my earliest shots when I used to use a big TV background, for my background. And I got grass from the train shop, set up the figures. It tried to recreate one of the classic scenes out of Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, where there's a just great panoramic with, widescreen letterbox kind of experience shots. It was a little tricky with this shot when I initially did it, and I went back and redid it again, because one thing I love about toy photography and what drives me is like I gotta get what I'm looking for. If I don't go back and reshoot it, sometimes I have to go back and redo things 3 times, 4 times over until I find the angle and get the right shot or meet the challenge for what I was trying to accomplish. And in this shot, I wanted to just show as wide as I could.
So that's Ruffin's scope, right?
Like that.
I mean, for lack of better term, that's Ruffin's scope right there.
Now, I'm going to tell you who has great scope is Steve Harron. He's got the ultimate scope. But this is when I would try to, use bigger, I would get out of my little space that I'm in now. Let me just mention, I try, post-production is important, but what I appreciate about David and others is the lack of post-production. Try to get everything done in the shot so you don't have to go to Photoshop or other tools. They help, but they help us out to effect.
I could never do that kind of shot, John, with my basic setup. So there's something for everyone, and that's why I get so inspired, because we all come at it from a different perspective. Like, I am in awe of that. I could never create that effect with what I use. So when I see something like this, it totally inspires me to want to explore that more. But I'm afraid if I go down that road, that I'll never, my ass will be glued to the chair. I'll never leave the computer. So. But I want to leave it to you and to Steve Harron, who, like, there's no better people to do it. But yeah, I like that we come at it, and Christine comes at it when you hear her segment from a different perspective also. So I love it, and I love that it's different.
And that's what's genius about everyone sharing on Facebook and social media. You just see everyone's approach and style. It comes through. We have a lot of great photography to enjoy and to appreciate and study, what we're all doing. So let me quickly move ahead. This is another shot I did a few years ago, trying to capture that incredible moment in Terror Mechagodzilla, where Mechagodzilla, implodes the street. And these are just some principles I always try to keep in mind. Again, thinking in background, midground, foreground, and creating visual interest along the way, along some a line that leads to the focus. Now, this was easy to do because of the nature of the shot, looking down the street. And the other thing to think about when taking your shot is you really study the stills, or study, if you're trying to do a diorama or recreate a scene out of a Japanese kaiju film, Godzilla in particular, study the camera level, study the lighting, study the color, the tone, the mood that's been created. That'll show a look I love. It's hard to capture, but it's fun trying to. And when I used to do a lot more dioramas, you start getting a really great appreciation for the Toho legends, Tsuburaya-san, and just the incredible work, Kawakita, and just all the work, Guji-san, just all they go through name calling, but the work, Sakura-san, cinematography, and all that, just the attention to detail and the hard work of the set builders and everything else. You're like, these are just little miniatures we get, but the craftsmanship that goes in, that they put in, and the thought to assemble all those sets to capture it, you know, those moments that we love the most. Okay, quickly. So in post-production, I turned it into black and white, and I just added smoke and to the background and adjusted the light, the brightness and contrast. And getting low on a shot helped to create drama and trying to capture that shot from 75, which actually the angle is higher. But if I go back and I'll show you on my setup, you can see the big gap. And here's the thing with doing toy photography or doing dioramas, you don't have to have every shot or, you know, all the buildings. You just need to trick the eye. You have to, it just has to be for the moment believable or capture the moment. And I'm missing some street there in the middle, but that was never going to show up in the shot anyway. And I have all these other buildings and things, but most of it doesn't show up in the final shot. Then you crop down and by your cropping, you know, and messing your levels and your effect, helps. But what makes the shot work for me is the smoke in the background, which I could not make at all. Just some other examples of setting up and background, foreground, midground. I love Hedora, like maybe not as much as Andy, but I love shooting the X Plus Hedora figures that we have. And so these are this particular shot, this whatever this is from a train I got from the train shop. It's a big piece, and it would be, if I put it up against the figure, you would just see how just out of scale they are. But shooting through it, that forced perspective makes it work. And that little warehouse that's on the right, that's propped up on top of some old video VHS tapes to get it high enough in the shot to give some sense, those lines, so it's kind of going into the subject matter, and it tracks. And the perspective helps drive the eye in and focus. And this was another shot, kind of a worm's eye view. And lighting. I took this shot in the dark, and I'm going to talk about the lights that I use now almost exclusively. But it helped to create somewhat of a realistic effect. I added the smoke in Photoshop in the sky later. This was a fun shot, diorama, and again, to emphasize the lines, these are in-scale buildings that you can get off of Amazon Japan, or even Amy. And I purchased little lights when I was in Japan, and you can buy them off of Amy. They don't have them nearby, but they're little yellow lights. There's like 6 of them, or 6 or 8, and you can just sit it behind a building, put it at the base, and get it in one of the windows. And so none of the lights were added in Photoshop or anything like that. The only thing that was added was it's just the Mount Fuji kind of in the background, and just did some more color enhancements and some adjustments. And I just added the word, I think that's Tomaru for stop, and that little sign, a couple of those little signs that weren't there before. Here's another shot again, Hedora, that was forced perspective example, and using in scale, and I think that's 8 shows, way big. Old. I got it for like $4 at the toy shop. They're trying to get rid of older miniatures for your train setup, and kind of looks old. Looks like it's in the 70s a little bit. I could do these shots much better now, but I learned so much. I mentioned milestones, where there's shots as you keep shooting, you might go back and say, you know, that one shoot that I did, I learned a lot, and it moved me. I went up a level, went up a grade. And this one, for me, was simple, but I learned so much just trying to create that sense of scale. I don't think the shot was any deeper than 8 inches deep, but it was just stacking up toy cars and miniatures that just, to me, created a sense of depth that kind of made me think of the movie a little bit. This was a fun shot. You can see what it looked like coming out of the camera, and what Photoshop I was able to turn it into by cropping it and adding a actual photo of Nagoya Tower in the background, but changing the hue and saturation and adjusting some of the levels, you can create I think a cool mood of a shot. This kind of reminds me of a scene out of Mothra versus Godzilla. This was another this is an example of, again, thinking about what you're doing in the foreground can be just as important as what you're focusing upon. Adding visual interest, so having a little car, looks like some activity was going on in the factory, and there's, Godzilla and Anguirus in the background, get in the middle of a beatdown. This was an interesting shot just to talk about sometimes what you have to go through to get a shot. I don't have much of a setup again, and I have to break it down after I'm done. But that Shin Godzilla, Art Spirit Shin Godzilla, I think I have that sitting on like 4 or 5 books just to get, and I have a tripod. It was pretty high to get down on, but I studied the still from the film and tried to recreate it. And then, I love Shin Godzilla. Nothing about the movie I don't like. I love it all, but I love Shin Godzilla Form 2 and 3 and 4, and you can see what the shot was, and just with some adjustments in Photoshop, adding some blood or some fake blood, trying to just mimic what's in the shot. But I learned here, add more buildings, try to get more sense of depth, and adding a little toy van in the foreground, again, helps to create a sense of depth and realism. This was a shot I actually did against a yellow wall, bedroom, and again on a little food cart, and using this real teeny tiny, can't really see this, street poles. You can get these online, Amy, or maybe Hobby Link Japan and other sites. I had to do a little fixing, but a little tokusatsu, add some smoke, and get a nice sense of depth, try to recreate one of the scenes of Shin Godzilla. Is another. That's what it was out of the camera. Made some adjustments and added in the 7-Eleven. That in the windows wasn't there, but I just took that from the actual shot of a 7-Eleven and put it in. And it kind of created a sense of, like it's real. But light, this was all natural light from the window. No extra light, but natural light.
John, do me a favor and show off that little telephone pole again, because that can make you take up the full screen.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah, that's what those little in-scale telephone poles look like.
Yeah, they break easily. And I can't imagine trying to put some string on here to create actual, real power, electric lines. And that's what Photoshop is good for. Post-production helps. This another Shin Godzilla. This is a Kyoto Shin Godzilla. When I get to the gigantics, particularly this figure, I do have an old setup where to pop a backdrop on if you were doing actual, human, portraiture or something like that. But in this case, to get this shot, I had to pull that out. And he was hiding on the falls and dropping on the side. And now we using light for still a couple of
Uh-oh. We may have to vamp here for a second.
So when he showed the picture of the 7-Eleven, I was totally jonesing for a dorayaki.
Oh, yeah.
For real.
Okay.
For real. Well, it's really great. Oh, there's.
Sorry about that.
It's okay.
John, do you want to go back to your presentation, or you want to? Yeah, good old internet. Everybody loves the internet, don't we?
I'm going to go back.
All right.
We're getting close to the end. Sorry about that, difficulties beyond my control. So lighting. So I just use natural light, ceiling light when I need it. IKEA tall floor lamps, a couple on each side. And most importantly, these days, shelf lights. A little puck light, I got from Lowe's or something, or you can order them off Amazon.
I use those a
Because
lot.
now what I'm really into painting with light. And so I used to just take one shot and live with it, the best I could light it. But now I want more detail and emphasis on eyes over really for me using the puck light to sell shots to get the lighting the way I want, because I think about what Toho would have had, all the stage lights to cancel out shadows, etc., and try to get show the best of the figure, the texture and the detail, etc. So I think I don't use big setups or anything like that. You can get a lot done with a little $3 puck light. And I will actually, use a tripod. Don't have to. And sometimes I'll take the picture and just put my hands back up around the the subject matter to get the light the way I want it. But that's handy. Okay. Yeah, here's some examples of composite shots where I just use the handheld light to get as much drama as I could. And this was actually taken during the day with light coming in from the window and then adding in the extra light with the handheld. This was actually shot during the day, right in the window, and in Photoshop with a few filters, turned it into nighttime. But the lighting was good from just the way it was falling in on Mechagodzilla. This is one of my favorite shots of the X Plus 25 centimeter Yuji Sakai, Godzilla 1954. I shot this at night. All the lights were out, and I just used I set up my handheld. I used my X Plus figure, tail support or whatever, and I'll set these around and just have my puck lights, sitting on it and light it from different angles. The key for me with light is controlling it. And for the smaller figures, it's hard to control it with, those big lights you would get in lighting kits. It's just too much and too bright. So the little lights are great. And these little Defo Real X Plus figures, I love them. These are shot in daylight and then just the handheld light. Using the background. Most of the time, I use a gray background. It makes it more pop, and it's easy to add Photoshop, and I'll show that. This little shot at the bottom was actually shot in a black IKEA. You kind of buy them and they prop up the little boxes, and I sat it right on the edge with some faux rocks I got from off of eBay, and natural light, and then the handheld light, and shot it from the top down, and it kind of worked. My settings on my camera, my camera's a mirrorless. It's convenient. You just press, the screen, the 300. Two lenses that I still use to this day, the little cake lens, and I'm using the telephoto lens a little bit more. Tripod, that's my friend, and I always shoot, almost all the time, 99.9% of the time, ISO 100. I do a lot of long exposures because I don't want a lot of depth of field. I want to get as much sharply as possible. So sometimes the shutter will be open even 20, sometimes 30 seconds, depending on how dim it is, just to get enough light and to reduce the blur in the background. And now do multiple
So you have to use a tripod. You absolutely have to use a tripod. There's no way you can do it without one.
Can you repeat that, David?
Oh no, I just said it's absolutely essential that you use a tripod for that because there's no way you'd be able to do that with a handheld camera without getting the shake.
Yeah,
there's no way.
It would be terrible. Yeah. It'd be a miracle. Yes. So post-production, I use Photoshop, and depending if I'm trying to recreate a print ad or do some box art, I'll use Illustrator and InDesign. Now, let me say something about the Adobe suite. It's pro software, and I grew up using, but in the 90s, I was using Illustrator 88 and Photoshop 2.5, like in the early days. I mean, it evolved with it. And it was those skills that I developed in graphic design that lend themselves to helping me do toy photography. You can get the Adobe Creative Suite, entry offer for the first year for like all the Adobe software for like $25 a month. And that's, if you want to dive in, that's a great way. And after the first year, it's like $52 a month. But you can get packages just for Photoshop, just for photography with Lightbox and Photoshop, or you can get one that's geared for other packages, depending on what you do. With that said, also, if you have a Macintosh and you want to do some Japanese input and language, you have language is multilingual, but already built into the Mac OS. I'm pretty sure it's the same for the Windows operating system. Okay. So I'm going to just show you my process, and then the last, I'm just going to show you how I set up a shot in general every time. This I love old Godzilla and Japanese Kaiju, and I love the collaging, show of versions of those books. And so I always think, I would love to try to recreate that and use my toy photography in trying to create, things like that. And so this I did a couple weeks ago now, but I'm using it to show you the process of using your old toy photography, reuse it, repurpose it, and do something new and creative, and try to create a work that maybe uses not just photography software, but also Illustrator-based software and maybe out software. In this case, Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign. So, and actually add what the Japanese, I think they refer to these as obis, like paper that's wrapped around the book, kind of kimono, obi. That's what I'm showing you the end product, what it became. But let me show you the process. So you would take a shot of each figure. And the process of doing this, you think about layout and composition that you would a traditional graphic designer would do, trying to show some type of visual hierarchy, what's important. And so I would take each shot, take it into Photoshop, shoot it on a gray background or a white background, but primarily use gray. If you shoot on a white background, often you get the light reflecting and it will hit the edges of the figure, and it can be difficult cutting it out, and your shot it may be a night shot, or so you don't want to show all that white light that's hitting off the edges of your figure. So a gray background or black background eliminates that. But using a black background can be difficult when you're trying to cut around, masking out your figure or whatever you're focusing upon. So in this case, this is GMK. I took this shot probably a month ago. I'm not interested, came back to this. And in Photoshop, you can use something called clipping paths, or you can use like an airbrush tool and go around. So I meticulously go around these high-res photos from my camera. Sometimes it might take 45 minutes to cut around just one image. There's all kinds of tips and tricks for masking out backgrounds and software, but there's nothing like doing it the old-fashioned way and going into the detail, because you'll always have it. You can always reuse it. Colin, you know what I'm talking about. And so
I love how you call it the old-fashioned way.
Exactly. I'm old school. So this is the Photoshop part, and you'll end up with many layers. And I'll tell you, some of my files are anywhere from 500 megs to 1.2 gigs. And opening them up, I don't even like to reopen them after I finish, because it's just like I got to wait maybe a couple minutes for it to open up. But with that said, you experiment, you play around, cut things out, put it all together, and doing other things other than dioramas is helpful for working on your layout skill and what you're seeing in composition. Because then you could take that skill and go back to doing your toy photography and think about putting one thing in front of the other, and relationships and scale and all that kind of stuff. So I use old photos, I develop and color skills, and dozens of layers, and do a lot of masking. Then Illustrator is a different beast. It's different than Photoshop. It's vector-based. Photoshop is resolution-based. So if you try to scale up a image of Photoshop and it's not high resolution, it may start to slur the photo, and you can't, you'll be mad. So you want to always work your way down, high res as possible, and work your way down, not trying to scale up. But Illustrator is vector-based, and this is where I'll recreate title art and put it in vector, so you can scale it up infinitely down and infinitely up. You could put it on a billboard outside. It's so clean and crisp, the lines. And so I'll go in and recreate all kinds of stuff, make the film strip edges and all that kind of stuff. And then you can copy and paste it into Photoshop. Now this InDesign is for layout, and where you can bring your Photoshop images and your Illustrator images and bring them all together in a layout. So I'll use InDesign for when I was doing my Kaiju magazine, and is nothing. I discovered finally, because they give it to you now. In the past they didn't. The localized version, the Japanese localized version of InDesign. Boy, Japanese typography is amazing and mind-blowing, and like you need a degree to figure it out. And it was a good experiment, but you can bring all that stuff together and have fun with your photos and create some beautiful stuff. There's a little representation of Harold's work with Figure Mania and some other elements. A few weeks ago I did this poster, but just to show you the process quickly again, taking each shot of each kaiju, cutting them out, putting them together in another Photoshop file, layering them up, getting in. Sometimes you got to go back and touch up where, you know, some element you left out when you were masking, do a lot of repair and experiment, bring in type from Illustrator, you know, try to create that old grandeur from the Toho Showa, you know, era, things like that. Everything needs to be cut out when I'm doing a poster. So even the little Maser cannon, you know, you got to go take your shots, cut it out, try to work it in. Other applications, I'm almost done. Some posters here. You think posters, kaiju cards, box art, you know, whatever. So all the years you may have been taking photos, think how you can reuse them and do some other creative stuff with them. Now, here's where I'll kind of focus for a moment on the couple of projects I've been blessed to be able to do in honor. I can't thank G-San of X Plus and Jeremy Souls of Summit Kaiju International for the opportunity to do box art for X Plus. And given that it's Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla anniversary, I can't, I'm like, it was an honor, just an amazing honor. I can't express the joy I have to have been able to represent Mechagodzilla. Oh, you guys are awesome. Oh, gosh.
Of course. We got to support our buddy.
Bless you. But the process, everything I just showed you was a part of the process. But when you're under the gun, you got to focus, and everything you've been doing in your tour photography, if it's been for 6 months or a year or 6 years, you got to bring it all to bear on what the project you have. And that's why thinking about how you want to apply it, you never know. Your work may end up in a magazine, but as it did for David, you never know where it's going to, or in a photo gallery, you know, in someone's exhibit, you just never know. So be prepared, because as you grow, people are, you know, gravitate to your work, and so you can put your best foot forward and be ready for whatever, you know, God might bring your way. With that said, these are tremendous to work on, and let me just show you my process a little bit. With the Mechagodzilla box art, I can't say enough about Yuji Kaida and his influence with his illustration and artwork from the Bandai, the Tokusatsu collection model kits that I grew up with and were so influential. So his box art and that incredible famous monsters, Godzilla versus the Bionic Monster cover, was just like always inspirational. So the opportunity to try to mimic them was just like, or to just be inspired by them, just was like awesome. And with Godzilla 1995, to do this was pressure for Sakai-san. I mean, to do his figure is amazing. And I just got to studying and watching Godzilla versus Destroyer probably like 4 times, taking dozens of stills and trying to, it was tough to try to create this. I was going through my book, so having a book collection is helpful when you want to study for your toy photography, and trying to get the best possible shot with limitations. that you may be given. The shot, you have to use a certain angle, and you have to think about the end dimensions. I was shooting for the narrow box and didn't know it was going to be on the wider box. So I shot for this. That means no matter how great the shot could have been, on the left and right, most of it's going to get cropped out. And nothing at the bottom, toward the bottom is going to be visible. So everything is up here. So it makes you shoot differently, makes you think differently. So practicing different shots, having fun, you never know what you're going to learn and how it's going to help in the future. I did a number of options, tried to, for each box. So there could be choices. But not through inspiration, old Kyoto, Godzilla 1995 box, and just experimenting. So trying to get that drama of Desu Goji's eyes and all that good stuff in the burning. Now, finally, last 4 slides, and I'm done and out of the way. Post-production process. This is something I do every time around. It's not deep. You can do it. Photoshop makes it easy and has so many things to explore. I know the tools, but I don't use them all. I mean, it's very limited because they're tried and true. And there's better ways to do it than what I'm showing. So I'll take the shot, bring it in, and that's the raw shot. I may make multiple shots and just mask out areas that I think, I did the lighting, specifically on the top of Mechagodzilla's head, and I like that. I want to add that in. I'll mask out everything else and bring in what I want. And then I have basically 4 folders. The shot at the bottom, and you'll see it says Mechagodzilla 75. Then there's a Tokusatsu folder, a Sky folder, and adjustments. That's the special sauce. So I'll take the shot, I'll clean it up, composite, range it, rule of thirds, try to get it in a sweet spot, cut off, crop off what's extra, and then I'll drop in a Sky. And with a little adjustment to the Photoshop blending mode, some of you may know this, it just falls in this place and I mask out what I don't like. And that's about 30 seconds. So you can add some drama and depth with some clouds. And it's not deep. You can go out and shoot your clouds, Then I do, that's the Sky. Sorry, I didn't really show that, but you can see it there. Clouds, one little layer, some faux clouds. Adjust the level, and I'll start my little secret sauce. In that adjustment folder, I may have anywhere from 3 filters to about 15. It depends on what I'm trying to match or the feel I'm trying to create. Nothing deep. That's the fun part about Photoshop. You can go to town and find your formula for getting the feeling that you want. And then I'll add Tokusatsu elements, special effects where I can. For Mechagodzilla, sometimes I'll make things in Illustrator and bring it over and add a blur, adjust the colors. These little, what do they call them? Little, I forgot the word.
I believe the technical term is pew-pews.
Pew-pews. That's just taking a brush tool in Photoshop, making a colored line, blurring it, and adding a little glow and moving them and rotating, not to it, but it looks pretty deep. And that's it. That's all I do. And I don't think it's that deep. It's just find what you enjoy, work it out, and have fun with it.
Hold on. You said...
And improve.
That's not a lot. So basically what just happened was I did your basic beginner and you did the masterclass of this. So it's pretty awe-inspiring for me to go from what I did to what you just did. So it just takes it to a whole another level. And it was awesome. I learned a lot. I'm lucky I got to see it twice because we talked a little bit about it before we did this. So I got to see it twice. So I started to understand what you were saying. So bravo, man. Bravo.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, David. It's something I do as a graphic designer, and I just applied it to my photos. If I'm doing a brochure for a client, I'm going to have to adjust the photos or something like that. And so it's just techniques you learn in doing other things you bring over. I'm not a photographer. If you ask me to go outside and shoot some I don't know, some architecture, I'm like, I'm not going to set it up well. I can't hold the camera straight. You can laugh. It's just study. This is a really important thing, and I'll leave on this. imitation. All life really is imitation. It is simply put, copy, paste. Doing innovation is really just a heightened form of imitation. You take what those before you have done, and you learn the principles and work it and do something, express yourself through it.
Imitation and inspiration.
And inspiration.
They're equally as important. And I love that you touched on some things that I actually forgot to touch on. Rule of thirds, which is very important. And those of us who do this a lot, it's intuitive to us to shoot with rule of thirds in mind. A lot of shots, like portraits, you don't use it, but thank you for mentioning that. And you went way in depth with lighting, more things that I wanted to say. So really, really great. Really great stuff.
Cool. We covered bases for each other.
If checking out the chat room is any kind of indication, I think people would actually enjoy seeing some screen share style tutorials from you guys if you were ever interested in that kind of thing. Like we could actually, like John, you probably would be easier to start with because I'm sure you know of some screen recording software that's already out there. But like if you wanted to actually shoot the whole thing and say like, well, here's how I go from start, from zero, here's my photo, all the way to the finished product, or some sort of abbreviated version of that, so you could actually do sort of like a masterclass on the Collectible Monsters channel.
That would be
people would be into it.
That'd be fun.
I would definitely watch it.
That'd be fun. I'll make it so.
Make it so.
All right. Well, I think it's time to move along to my segment. And before we do that, I'm sure a lot of people have noticed we're down to 3 now. And that's unfortunately, Leslie had to leave. So I'm going to be picking up his questions for the photographers for a little bit later. But for the moment, we get to talk about my segment, which I'm very excited to share with you guys because I don't consider myself to be a kaiju toy photographer. I mean, like I said earlier, several of my co-hosts come to mind when you say the word kaiju toy photography. And in 2017, I was introduced to my guest, and he essentially, let's see, let me actually get this done right here so I can actually do it. So I was introduced to Steve Harron, a collector that some of you guys out there know, some of you may not know. But Steve Harron, aside from being a maniac, is a great guy. John and David, I believe you both were on the Summit Kaiju photo contest. I think this was 2017. And it was, I think, the first year that Summit Kaiju did it. And basically this photo came through and I was like, whoa, hold up. Wait. What am I seeing here? Guys, look at all the work that went into this photo. And like, I wasn't the only person touting its amazingness. So essentially, Steve actually won that contest. Here's his winnings: the 1962 gigantic X Plus Godzilla that he has, of course, put into a gorgeous diorama. Let me actually talk a little bit about Steve. Steve isn't just a collector. He's not just a model kit builder. Steve Harron actually builds these miniature sets and spends a ton of work working on them. I'm just going to cycle through a whole bunch of his stuff real quickly. Just a number of different photos that I sort of cherry picked. He did a whole gigantic scene with Monster Zero stuff. So he's got stuff from the Lake Myojin and the lake house. And like, look, there's an acycle light ray. I freaking love that. He's really good at the whole forced perspective foreshortening kind of thing too. He loves setting those kinds of things up in his backyard. Essentially, he shoots everything in his backyard. And I do actually have some behind the scenes photos to share with you guys as well. But we'll just kind of quickly zip through some of these. And then I have a very short interview that I am going to play with the man.
Brilliant work.
What blew me away was when I discovered that these are not Photoshop; these are all practical shots.
Yeah.
Yes.
He may use a tiny bit. Maybe we'll learn. I'm actually not even sure. But for the most part, these shots are really detailed dioramas that he builds and paints, and he makes the models. A lot of these aren't X Plus figures.
Right.
A lot of model kits that he builds and paints. So this guy is the real deal, man. And again, a huge inspiration for me to up my game. And I love the guy, man.
Yeah, it's super inspiring. He has his own Facebook group as well. I think it's called Attack the Miniature Monsters.
That's correct.
Yeah, he basically, let me zoom in here. You can see this is the 64. I think it's a Billiken 64. I'm not positive about that.
No,
He
that's
set, is it X Plus or Billiken?
It looks X Plus.
X Plus to me.
Well,
Whatever.
regardless of which one it is, he actually set the frickin' set on fire to create the shot he's looking for. And there's Steve there with his iPhone. It's just amazing to me. This is, again, him out in the backyard prepping a shot, building his lake. This is, I don't have the actual shot of this in the series of photos, but this is the shot from Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, where it's shot through the Torii Gate at the shrine, where you can see Ghidorah like bouncing around in the background.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's insane. It's insane, but in the best possible way. He like cut out his own
Landscape.
yeah, sculpts his own landscape, paints his own landscape. Anyway, that's a brief introduction to Steve Harron, you know. And so what I just want to do right now is share an interview that I did with Steve. It's actually, we have a much longer version of this interview coming up on the Collect All Monsters channel, because I did kind of the thing that David's been doing. I asked him to tell me about his collecting journey, but then I wove that into asking about his dioramas. But I thought it would be great just to hear from him what his tips and tricks are for kaiju toy photography. So this episode that we're doing today is all about kaiju toy photography. I was wondering if you have any specific tips or tricks that you'd like to share with our viewers about taking photos of these monster toys.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, first and foremost, you just gotta love what you're doing. If that's not doesn't happen, it's gonna come through in the picture. Lighting is everything with taking a picture. You can have the best camera in the world. If the lighting's not right, the picture's not going to come out right. I take all my pictures with an iPhone.
That's great, though. That's super
I do. I need to step my game and buy a decent camera, but I'm satisfied with my iPhone up until this point. So just about all the pictures you see come from my iPhone. Yeah, you got to get creative. I use a godsend for diorama pics. I use these smoke emitters. These smoke emitters, they put out you just light the one end, and they put out a smoke screen for, they have like 60-second ones, they have 90-second ones, they have 2-minute ones. Wow. So you get a fair amount of smoke.
Yeah.
As you're taking the pictures for a diorama scene. And the good thing about those is you can take, 20, 30 pictures with the same smoke emitter. The smoke emitter alone, though, it looks unnatural, so you have to find a way to diffuse the smoke. So I tend to use like just house fans to diffuse the smoke, so it looks more natural that way.
That's cool.
Whereas versus just like a thick cloud of cigarette smoke. Underlighting, you need another source of light. Sometimes I take all my pictures in natural light, which is tricky because midday sunlight is not good for pictures.
Oh yeah, especially when it's really harsh, right?
Yeah, when the sunlight's out, midday is no good. There's like this golden hour to take a picture outside. It's like right before sunset and right after sunset. And that's when I found that time period, right before and after sunset, seems to be the best time to get the writing light for a picture.
Interesting, yes.
But I still almost always try to supplement that with some other type of light. I use lights like, this is like a drop light, and it puts out, like here's the, like if you put the light up, something like that, it gives a cool effect. So you need some other form of lighting, especially in a dark suit like this, dark figure, to bring out the detail. So yeah, I mean, again, lighting is everything with a figure, with a picture, I should say. What else is there? Watch the movies. Get ideas from the movies themselves. That's if I find a scene I like, go through a movie and pause, and just look at the, every little detail in that scene, so I know what to include, in that particular diorama or whatever.
Awesome. Well, dude, thank you so much for being part of this show, and thank you so much for sharing your expertise. And what's the next thing you're working on? Last question for you.
So the next one I'm going to do is going to be my personal favorite scene of all time, which is the appearance, 64 appearance. I just did a miniature Sakai appearance kit. So it's a kit specifically with him coming out of the ground. So I'm working on a backdrop. I mean, there's a lot more in that scene going on now. It's more than just him coming out of the ground. There's the foreground. There's that retaining wall in the back, the backdrop, which has like mountains and the ocean back there. So I'm going to try to get all that involved too and see what I can do.
All right, man. Well, I can't wait to see how it turns out, dude.
Yeah,
cannot wait.
Yeah, me neither. We'll see.
Well, thanks so much, man. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, Kyle. Thanks for having me, bud.
You bet. Yeah, and there you go.
Outstanding. He basically said what John and I said. The lighting is everything. You use a secondary source of lighting outdoors to illuminate things that the natural light won't give. Definitely, he didn't say do it on a cloudy day. He won't have to worry as much. But the golden hour. And then he talked about, John, inspiration. Watch the movies, get inspired, make sure you love what you're doing. It's going to come through in your photos if you're passionate and you dig it. So dude is on point. That was awesome, Kyle. I loved it. Can't wait to watch the rest.
Yeah, the rest, I actually think the rest is really great. I was originally thinking I was going to take segments from it and also use that, but his tips and tricks segment just seemed to be the perfect length for it. So
yeah.
And those smoke thingies? Okay.
Can you believe that?
Someone who doesn't do smoke with Photoshop, I need those things. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
That's it.
Tomorrow.
All right. So, unfortunately, Leslie had to leave us, but he left us with some questions for our panelists here, which is essentially David and John. So I'm going to take over here. I'm not going to do a Leslie P. Chambers impersonation. That would just be rude. I think what I'll do instead is just keep his energy up and ask you guys directly with these fancy banners. What is the most important aspect of kaiju photography or kaiju toy photography to you guys?
Well, I think I just touched on it. The most important technical aspect is definitely lighting. As he said in his video piece, you can have the most expensive piece of camera equipment and the greatest techniques and be a great photographer. If you don't have the right lighting, the photo's not going to be successful. So lighting is number one. And number two, which is probably equal to number one, have fun, enjoy what you're doing, get inspired, watch the movies, and there you have it. How about you, John?
I couldn't agree with you more. It was spot on. I mean, motivation, enjoy it. Just to add to that motivation piece and enjoying it, run your race, do your tour photography, learn from others. Competition and all that is not important, except against yourself. Like determination. I want to get better. I want to capture my toys. So if I lose them, or my figures, if I lose them, God forbid, I haven't captured, forever. I have them on my phone or whatever, and I can enjoy them. Kind of suck the soul out of them, with your photo. And work toward reaching whatever goal you set for yourself.
All right. Excellent answers, dudes. I mean, I think Leslie would love those. So let's move along to the next question. What is the most difficult kaiju in your collection to photograph?
Okay, this one is really easy for me. I'm just going to say the X Plus King Ghidorah figures are super, super difficult to photograph. There's so much going on that figure. There's so many heads. There's tails. The wings are gigantic. It's hard to focus on a particular portion to get that in focus, and then the other section is not. I tried to take my my Rick version outside. I think I told you guys the story. And when I first got it to shoot it against the rock wall, and what happened was a wind picked up, and that's not a very heavy figure, and it lifted the figure literally off the ground. I had to lunge forward and grab it before the wing came crashing down and onto the ground. And I almost, dropped the camera too, but it's just, I was like, forget it. It's going inside. We don't need this photo that badly. But that figure is so difficult to shoot. There's tricks and trades to sort of, get portions of it, but it's just really, really hard to photograph that guy. How about you, John? What do you think?
I agree with you on the King Ghidorah. That's like trying to get all three heads in, focus. It's a mess, and I've tried propping it up under its feet to try to get the heads not so down, try to get them up. I mean, all kinds of manipulations. But I'd have to say, the one I would love to shoot all the time, but I just can't do much with, is the X Plus 30 centimeter Godzilla 1955 figure. That bad boy. I love it.
Just because
with a couple angles.
It's just because he's goofy, right? Is that what you're saying? You can't really get a serious shot of him? Is that?
That's the part of the challenge. But it's brutal. But I love it. I want more 1955. But that one I haven't been able to do much with it, but would love to do more.
Okay, well, let's move along to the next question, which is, what is the one figure in your collection you just can't stop taking photos of?
Well, it's pretty obvious when you looked through my curated photos of the ones that I thought were my favorites. It's pretty much has to be the X Plus Rick 64 closed mouth 30 centimeter figure. I just think that figure looks good from so many angles, and I've shot that in every possible scenario: light box, underlit, overlit, against the rock wall, at the beach, everywhere. I've shot that so many times just because it is so photogenic. And I do want to add one thing. I try to get at least one or two good angles of every single Godzilla figure that I have or that come into my path. One that I really have a hard time with is this guy. This is actually Corey's.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. 75 30 centimeter. It's just not that great, and I can't get a great angle of this figure. I just can't do it. I haven't yet one to my satisfaction. But having said that, almost every other figure, be it a Marmot, M1, X Plus model kit, you can always find an interesting angle to shoot it from, to make it look its best. And it always makes me really happy when I hear people on the X Plus group and in the photography group say things like, man, I never thought that figure was good, and because of your photo, I want to buy it. Mm-hmm. Or, hey, I bought that figure and I didn't like it, but now I kind of do. So when I hear things like that, it just makes me really happy. And I try to get the essence, and as you said, John, suck the soul out of every figure that I take a photo of. And it's a lot easier to do for some than others. But anyway, how about you? What do you think is the most photogenic?
Oh, wow. Just a comment on that 75. I want to shoot it more. I actually did a couple shots earlier in the week just to relax. And I thought I'm getting one angle that I love. The other ones are still not coming through enough. But the one figure I love to shoot, and I can't do enough of them, and I can't get enough props to do the shots with this figure enough, is the X Plus Yuji Sakai Godzilla 1954. It's like beautiful and perfect, in so many ways. That sculpt is the best 54 in my collection by far.
In mine too. It looks
Not
just
mine.
Oh wow! Yeah,
I,
but
I don't have it. Yeah.
you got to see the inspiration at the Subaraya Museum and at Godzilla's 50th because the figure looks like that suit. I mean, it's spot on, spot on. I would love to do one of those little mini 3D figures of myself and just put it next to that, just to have as it's the suit. Anyway, for another day.
Okay, so kicking up with the next, which line of Kaiju collectibles is the most photogenic? So not just a single toy that you can't stop taking photos of, but would you say M1 and Marmot stuff or X Plus? John, I got to know your answer. Has got to be X Plus.
Yeah, it's X Plus.
Do you want to start? Why don't you start this one?
Oh, okay. I cannot shoot stylized figures. Figure them out. I can't, it just look back at me and like, nope, we're not doing anything. And I can't. So X Plus all the way. I've always wanted realistic Godzilla figures, and I can't build kits. David, you and Kyle, you all are gifted. I never could build models growing up. But I wanted realistic Godzilla figures. The Bandai's did it for me, but when I discovered X Plus, that was it. I was like, and then the toy photography came along, and the 25 centimeter line, I like it for the scale, but the 30 centimeter line for the detail. So X Plus all the way, 25. And I'd have to say, the Defo reel, I love the detail, but and gigantics, but the tried and true 25 and 30. Actually, sorry, David. What's for you? Which one is for you?
That's a really tough question because it really depends what you're going for in your photograph. Like if you're going for a more realistic diorama shot, then of course it's got to be a model kit or X Plus. Model kits to me are super photogenic and I love using them, but the resin pieces are so delicate. I'm so afraid to venture too far away with them for fear of breaking them or chipping the tail or the dorsal plates. So I don't know. I have to say it's 50-50. X Plus model kits and M1 Marmot, because my strong point, I think, is shooting portraits. And you can get some pretty dope portraits using a light box and a colorful stylized figure. So some inspiration that I have are Lolo and Dell have been doing some incredible stylized work that I've been seeing lately that have really inspired me to up my game in that department. But I think it's 50-50, and it really depends on what type of photograph you're aiming to shoot. And that's not really a pop-out answer. That's the truth.
No, I totally get that. Like, I wouldn't normally look at an X Plus figure and go, you know what? That's playful. Let's go with these guys. But something like an M1 or even a Parababy specifically, right? They just like evoke that sort of like break it out of the realism. Fun, really, is what I would say there.
Yes, indeed.
All right. So, what is your all-time favorite Kaiju toy photo? Not the figure, the actual photo.
Were we supposed to submit that to you?
I don't think so.
That
would have been Leslie, and he didn't ask me to do that. So.
Okay. Well, mine has to be a photo that I shot of the G-Fest exclusive Marmot Desugoji. And it appears in one of I showcased in one of my photos. Maybe you can find it in there. It was in my best shots at the end. It's in there, and I shot it in a light box with a light source and some underlighting and a diffused flash. And basically, all I did was increase the dark tones and punch up the color, and that's basically it. And I think everything that I look for in a photo came together in that particular shot. So it's a sentimental piece to me too. It's my very first G-Fest, the very first figure that I bought at a G-Fest. That one, that is my all-time favorite shot. Thank you for finding that. Yeah, I think everything came together. There's a little bit of depth of field. There is a rule of thirds going on. There's an angle going on. There's pretty, successful lighting going on. So to me, this epitomizes what I go for in a portrait shot, which I think are my strong points. So that's it.
All right.
Beautiful.
Well, John, did you have one as well?
Sometimes my favorite shot is my last shot, but the one that I love the most, because I love the figure the most, is the Yuji Sakai Godzilla 1954. There's one shot in particular. I have I shared my screen, Carl. I don't know if
The one at the bridge?
yeah,
That's beautiful.
that's the one. And sometimes I tell you, often I make mistakes and stumble into things that I like, and so I can go back when I look and say, okay, this one I didn't mess up that bad. But this is my favorite because I love this figure so much. And 54 didn't used to always be my favorite movie when I was growing up. I was all into Justice, Godzilla, and 54 is too dark and gloomy. But now it's my favorite, just 54, and then 74 and Shin Godzilla. They're all in that top three. But 54 is always foundation, and trying to capture those moments. I mean, I wish there were some more figures I could shoot because I don't build kits. So I'd love to. I just want some more of these moments. But this one for me, and I think I did this around the time. It might have been the 1 year anniversary of Nakajima-san's. So it's just a little, just personal. The personal kind of aspect to it for me, it makes it my favorite.
Excellent. Amazing.
Right on. Well, that wraps up the questions from Mr. Leslie P. Chambers. And I think now we should move on to our monster showcase. It's time for us to pretty much wrap up the show. So, David, do you want to introduce the best kaiju or best monster portrait segment here?
Sure. This is one of my favorite segments of the show. It's where we get to see your work. And thank you for sending so many submissions. I couldn't even include them all because there were so many. You guys could just keep getting better and better. And so let's take a look at the amazing things that you sent us.
All right, there you go.
Fantastic.
Another monster showcase. Well done. I did not count how many submissions we got in total this time versus last time, but let me just say I had to make that music way longer than I did the last episode. So I'm really proud of everybody who took your advice, and especially the people from the Gods and Monsters Facebook group, everybody sending that stuff in and having so many things to show. Well done, viewers. That is amazing work for sure.
Absolutely amazing. I mean, forgive me if we didn't put every one of your photos in there. I think everyone who sent something was represented at least once.
I hope so.
I think so. We just couldn't fit them all in there, and that's a good problem to have, right?
For sure.
Keep up the good work. Like I said, some of those photos just inspire the hell out of me. I mean, the talent out there and the inspiration that you give to us and to other photographers is just incredible. So we're eternally grateful. Thank you so much.
And don't forget, we are picking things up next month. That's not how you say that. We're continuing the Monster Showcase next month with our hashtag TV Toku Heroes, which we are going to put up on screen right now. Blam. So use that hashtag when you want to submit your photos to us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We'll check them out. Although I will say, Twitter has been terrible to me lately. I don't really enjoy looking at it. So let's stick with Facebook and Instagram.
So Kyle, do you want to explain a little bit what that entails?
Yeah, so essentially we just want to see pictures of your favorite collectibles from tokusatsu television heroes, people like Spectreman, Ultraman, Space Giants, Flashman, Changeman, Fireman. There's a lot. So we're basically moving away from the monsters, although I will say monsters can be heroes too, guys.
Yes, they can.
It doesn't always have to be about a dude in a suit that looks like a dude in a suit. But yeah, we want to see that stuff. So submit it on Instagram, Facebook, etc. David, I'm sure we'll post another one of those helpful videos
reminders.
telling everybody what we're looking for exactly. And that was awesome. You guys, thank you again for an awesome show. I don't think there's anything else really to talk about. Our next episode will be April. It's in the last frame of that video. I think it's April 14th. It's mid-month Saturday, same time, same Monster Channel. And I think it's time for us to close out the show. What do you guys say?
I say, let's do it, buddy.
All right. Well, our planet may be doomed, our Earth devastated, the monsters are in revolt, and civilization is in chaos. It is time. No, we must unite and collect all monsters.